In every story, there are main characters who get all the attention, while no one pays attention to the side characters who are always there, but nobody cares about them. Our protagonist named Kim Hajin ended up in the body of such a minor character. An interesting fact is that he is the author of this novel, the very world he now finds himself in. At first glance, this story seemed to be the most ordinary and began like thousands of other manhwa. Dungeons and monsters appeared all over the land, and everything plunged into chaos, and humanity was on the brink of extinction. Korea had become the worst place in the world, but as always, there were heroes with powers, incredible powers who began to defeat the monsters and destroy their lairs in the dungeons. Hero guilds appeared, and with their help, Korea became the most prosperous place on Earth for training the strongest heroes. An academy called Cube was founded. In this manhwa story, there was a protagonist and his adversary, but our hero was neither of them. Immediately upon entering this world, the author seemed to have acquired some kind of super-hearing power. He can hear people in the crowd sharing their opinions on the rise of Kim Suho, both in positive and negative terms, but their opinions don't matter to our protagonist. What worries him is that he can hear everyone clearly, despite being so far away from them. As Kim Suho's promising results are presented, the director of Cube is impressed by his achievements. He is even more impressed by Suho's age, since he has achieved such a successful track record at just 17 years old. The name Kim Suho echoes in the author's mind. Suho is supposed to be the main character of this manhwa's source novel and of the world the author created. He is the one who is supposed to lead the ruined state of the world into an era of harmony and peace, as he is the hero. A typical hero who possesses a hero's kindness and a heart full of desire to do good. But what is even more interesting is the dark secret Suho has guarded with his life, keeping that part of himself hidden. Meanwhile, our nameless author focuses on Suho's rival, the boy who is supposed to oppose him in the manhwa and give him some competition. The second cadet to take the stage turns out to be Shin Jonghak. He is a boy, confident, I'd say, and somewhat arrogant. He's a typical rich kid because his father owns one of the top companies in the country. The author notes that Jonghak's talents could give the protagonist a really hard time, especially since he eventually becomes a villain later on. In the world's current state, all the important characters in this manhwa are just cadets, but in the near future, Jonghak's constant comparison and inferiority complex towards Suho will eventually lead to his downfall. He turns evil to oppose Suho, hoping to surpass him. As opposing forces of light and darkness, Suho and Jonghak are set to clash in the future, even though they stand side by side in the present. Both main characters of the novel are right before his eyes. Once again, the author is quite sure that this is the same world from his novel, which raises a big question. If those two are the main characters, what role does the author play in this story? Is he important too? Well, he figures that if he's a character in a novel he wrote, he should at least have a name. But his thoughts are interrupted by another student who calls him Chundon and asks if he slept well last night. Anyway, now the author has a trillion questions to ask. He can't even believe he was just called Chundon a moment ago. The chubby guy confirms he's the only Kim Chundon he knows. The name Chundon shatters our guy's expectations 10 times over. At least he hoped to become some kind of important character or have a relevant role, like in most transmigration and isekai manhwa stories. But this Chundon is so random that he didn't even write him into the novel. Not even the author remembers writing about a nobody like his own character. So this presumptuous guy thinks something will change if he just sees his face, because maybe that will jog his memory a bit and make him remember things better. The big question tormenting his mind is, who the heck is this Chundon? The funniest part of this hilarious situation is when the author realizes his face is nothing but a question mark. He's not even important enough for the game to give him a special face. Faced with this baffling situation, the author experiences a shock and tries to react, finally coming to a conclusion. There's nothing more revealing than discovering your face is a damn question mark. But look, this Chundon isn't even a character the author intended to put in the novel. His character doesn't have a special appearance, he doesn't have a unique name and basically doesn't even exist in the grand scheme of things. Rejected by the world of his own creation, the author faces despair as he realizes that not even the crowd focuses on his faceless features. It's like he's an NPC character, a nobody in this manhwa that no one cares about. Inside the cube, he's the most normal person and will probably never interact with the main characters or influence their stories. If you thought you weren't the main character in your life, think again, then imagine. This poor guy's situation is nothing more than an extra, even worse than an extra, just a placeholder to fill a seat in the game. Defeated, the author shrinks at the realization that he's nothing but a character, worthless side character in the novel. Now, for some context on how the author of this manhwa ended up here, he received a surprising email one day, offering him a remake proposal for the novel he had written. The returned hero, Kim Odon, The fantasy novel was a potential manhwa that had barely continued after facing extreme writer's block for over half a year. Have you ever felt like you start something but can't finish it? Yeah, that's basically what's happening to this guy. Hajin wondered what the email meant. He thought his fans wanted him to remake the story a bit, especially since Hajin stopped working on it. The guy already felt so guilty for delaying his fantasy story and, as an author, he thought it must be a joke or maybe a weird request from one of his fans. So, like a responsible author, he wrote a reply and sent the email. This small and seemingly insignificant event altered his life forever, giving way to the events of the current story, where he unexpectedly ended up in his own creation. Getting back to where we left off in this manhwa. With our question mark, this faceless stranger is starting to adjust to his unique appearance after enduring it for 2 weeks. 14 days have already passed and nothing has changed. He retains the same facial ambiguity he started with. These 2 weeks have confirmed for him that his current life isn't just a dream, but that he has truly been transported inside the world of his manhwa. Every word within the novel is a personal creation of Hajin, and now he walks among the characters he helped create and bring to life. The character Kim Chundon is one of the many extras in the novel, even though Hajin possesses this guy's body. As expected, he tried many ways to gather information and find an explanation for how he ended up in this mess, but his investigation failed because he doesn't know how he got here or who was responsible. Furthermore, he wonders how he is going to ensure his personal survival in this world, especially since there is no hope of returning to his home planet. Hajin estimates that a decade will pass until they reach the point in the story where he stopped writing, but this thought consumes him from within. The horror of surviving for 10 whole years in this strange manhwa world, being a nobody, is terrifying for Hajin. His faceless appearance doesn't help at all either. Hajin mourns the life he lost and doesn't want to be trapped in a novel that he didn't even get to complete. An exhausted Hajin decides once more to think of ways to undo his transmigration process. The only loophole, or perhaps escape route he sees, is to catch up with the events of the main story. After all, there is a possibility that he can break free. The author thinks that if he holds on until the story reaches its midpoint, he should be fine. It's not like he can do anything else to save his situation, so this question mark-shaped NPC decides that's what he is going to do. But to achieve his goals, he is going to live again as a high school student. Let's shift the focus to the cube and explore what's so special about it. It's an artificial island that houses the best hero cadets to lead the next generation. It's like a mini society of 50,000 inhabitants. The city is an example of innovation and advancement, reflecting the best of humanity's magical powers and industrial abilities. The cube is, by itself, the reason why Korea is considered a superpower in this manhwa. In front of the Hero Training Center, Hajin reflects that it's the main setting of his novel, where everything relevant is supposed to happen. It's a beautiful, blue structure where heroes train with special abilities. The superpowers in Hajin's novels are called gifts, and, as you would expect, every hero has them. However, only the best of the best, the highest elites, are the ones who get the qualification to become cadets at this facility. The same goes for Chundon, whose body Hajin is possessing. This guy is also supposed to be a cube cadet, which means he probably has some abilities. The problem is that Hajin has no idea what this guy's abilities are, so it's like starting from scratch, not even knowing if powers exist. The author at least has confidence that Chundon might have some connection to the training center. He hopes to find any resource he can use to his advantage, as that's the only way, where he has a chance to survive in that terrifying school, and with its ferocious cadets. Hajin enters the Veritas class, a classroom considered the hub of the QB training center. This manhwa setting has everything: the good, the bad, the cute, and the ugly. There's Jonghak, and even the novel's protagonist, Suho. Soon, most of these characters will have their own goals and encounter different events that will make many things happen. Hajin takes a seat and feels disgusted by the fact that he has to survive a full 10 years with this same class. To top it off, he doesn't even have a damn face to greet them confidently with. It's the worst imaginable outcome for the author of this manhwa. After class, the students return to their dorms. Hajin is no exception and doesn't know how to describe his day. He doesn't even know how he was able to concentrate in class when he first entered middle school. Suddenly, a delivery box catches his attention. This is quite unexpected, even for the author, since he never wrote about a delivery system in the game world of his manhwa. As he unpacks the box, several thoughts come to his mind. He wonders if this is supposed to be Chundon's personal belongings. To his astonishment, it's Hajin's own laptop, but this doesn't make any sense to him either. An object like this shouldn't exist here. The laptop turns on, and a system screen appears and starts loading. Hajin drops his laptop in a panic and sees the system screen alerting him of its synchronization with Chundon. The system downloads all the necessary settings and presents him with a bunch of stats like strength, intelligence, and even things like luck. The most surprising thing is that they are the same settings Kim Hajin wrote himself. Many questions arise in his mind, but before he can gather his thoughts, his body begins to transform as the synchronization finally comes to an end. The screen goes blank before alerting that he has obtained the setting intervention skill. The faceless body of Chundon transforms into Ajin's real body, completely resetting his stats. Ajin's reality has been reset once again. This time, what he sees in the mirror is a real face, instead of the mockery of seeing a question mark appear. But this is where things get even more complicated. Dozens of system screens appear out of nowhere, and Hajin doesn't know what they mean. The system confirms its synchronization process. He wonders if this has something to do with a special process called enlightenment. You see, enlightenment is an awakening that occurs once a person overcomes their limitations. That's what it's called in this manhwa world, and Hajin knows this because he wrote the skill himself. After the enlightenment ability, a person's gifts, superpowers, and skills are transformed into a digital format, so the person can access them with ease, a common trope in system manhwa. What's truly shocking is the growth experienced by his body. Hajin will be able to become much stronger now that he has received a glimpse of enlightenment. In normal terms, Hajin can see his status window, a staple in this kind of manhwa, which has several different points and talks about his abilities. One of his skills is observation, which is quite basic. The same goes for his second skill, reading. He also has stats that appear for him, although they aren't remarkable and are quite moderate. Hajin decides to inspect each status screen one by one. The most interesting one is the sync tab that transformed him from Chundon to his original body, causing a reset. What he sees on the screen is beyond his imagination, and although he doesn't understand how things change this way, Hajin is convinced that the synchronization caused his face and appearance to change. There's also the fact that his personal stats are much weaker than Chundong's, who is supposed to be a cadet at the academy, but instead of stats, he gets points to make up for his shortcomings. Anyway, with that out of the way, Hajin focuses his attention on the unique authority screen. Apparently, he has the ability to create new items by spending his SP. Doing so will consume his SP bar, but it can help unlock a world of new possibilities for him. SP or story points will only be obtained as the plot progresses and his importance grows. What's unique about this aspect of the manhwa is that Hajin doesn't even remember writing anything about story points. For his part, the author soon realizes that he must increase his importance in the manhwa to be able to influence the story and get story points as a consequence. He's starting to piece together his objective in this world. The reason he has access to his laptop and the status screens is because this man must go through hell, fighting monsters and eventually influencing the main plot of this manhwa. It's not the ideal outcome, so Hajin is already in the mood to curse his own creation, but just as he's muttering his frustration, another screen appears, surprising the author. It's supposed to contain hidden information about the predicament he's trapped in. Hajin is frustrated about having to interfere in this world to have even a minimal chance of returning to his old one. He gets up and starts running his fingers over his laptop. Since he has no other choice, Hajin believes it's better to act now instead of waiting for the story to reach the point where his manhwa novel left off. There's also no guarantee that he'll return to his previous world if he reaches that point. The writer thinks that even if the undisclosed information is irrelevant to his goal of returning home, he could still find an important clue to navigate through his current manhwa world and make things easier, helping him interact with the main characters. To achieve his goal, Hajin's only option is to fight and become strong. He starts to invest his points to be able to survive beyond the story and whatever is meant to unfold. Speaking of leveling up and increasing points, Hajin explains how his manhwa doesn't really have the concept of freely growing stats. The leveling up process that occurs in other manhwa doesn't happen in this one. The only method is to spend points, which makes them invaluable to users. The best way to spend the points is to focus all attention on luck, as it's the only stat that isn't capped and always has some effect. It helps with money, bonuses, and even relationships. The best kind of stat one could ask for to help with daily life is basically like a cheat code. But luck points can't be used to boost the effects of other stats, which makes Hajin wonder if he can somehow influence and manipulate his luck stat, converting his points into SP points. To test his hypothesis, he decides to try it, confirming the transfer of 10 points. As a result, these become 10,000 SP points. Hajin decides to spend 9,000 SP points on his luck stat, giving him an increase of 9. The mysterious luck ability activates and takes effect, slightly increasing his luck stat by 1 point. This means that his passive luck stat even affects itself, making it a truly valuable investment. Hajin then focuses on the stats of this manhwa's protagonist, Sujo's magic power is at a powerful 9 and is capped at that level. Hajin has just broken through that barrier by raising his luck stat to 9.1. As for the rest of his story points, he decides to focus on perseverance to help him survive the facility's harsh training. Thanks to Hajin increasing his luck stat, it also helps to significantly boost his perseverance skill when he enhances it with points. He already feels grateful for its effects, as the investment is showing promising results. Suddenly, the system glitches and issues a warning screen. His manipulation of probability has caused an error, as Hajin was basically cheating the system. The system creates a restriction to prevent this loophole. He can no longer manipulate his abstract stats with story points. Hajin is a bit annoyed to have received such a restriction, because otherwise he would be too overpowered for this manhwa. Hajin realizes he has hit a wall with his tricks, but he still managed to increase both luck and perseverance to a high level, which should be enough to overcome many obstacles in the manhwa's story. A thought crosses his mind. He gained 10,000 story points for being a novice. Those points should be used quite judiciously. Hajin wants to think more carefully about what he will invest them in, so for now he decides to save them. The next morning he arrives at his class. His teacher gives them an introduction, mentioning that Kim Suyak will be their instructor for the next year. He is globally recognized as one of the most skilled heroes, standing out notably in the mid-rank, grade 5, at the association. As he finishes his introduction, the man makes his point. He talks about how the institution, known as the club, is not just a fancy place for cadets to enjoy as they please. Their most reliable indicator is the student grade, which means if they fail to achieve or maintain it, the cadet will be expelled. He also mentions that maintaining grades is not easy, as only half of the cadets will manage to survive the program without dropping out of the institution. He strives to cultivate the next generation of heroes in this manhwa, so his judgment criteria will also be strict. The instructor tells the students to get up and follow his lead, as the first class will be about deciding on a main weapon for each cadet. Upon entering the armory, the students are left speechless, observing all sorts of beautiful yet terrifying weapons. Their awe is interrupted by their strict teacher, who reminds them that this is not playtime for them to enjoy, and orders them to choose a weapon immediately. He also warns them that after choosing a weapon, they cannot change it for at least 6 months, which means if they make a mistake now, they will be stuck for half a year with a bad weapon. Kim Sujo, the protagonist of this manhwa, is drawn to a sword and feels satisfied holding it. One of the girls decides to choose a bow and arrow, believing she is skilled enough to become an archer. Then there is a girl with hair, a blonde who prefers a rapier for precise strikes. The other students also choose different weapons like whips and other things. The protagonist Hajin is contemplating how most main characters in this type of manhwa just choose weapons without a second thought, but instead of focusing on what they are choosing, he has to make a decision on a weapon for himself. While evaluating his options, Hajin believes he must be careful, since even the slightest mistake could become a problem for him. His current stats are very low, so he can't compare to other cadets when it comes to weapons like spears or swords. The same goes for defensive shields. To simplify his selection process, Hajin decides to set a series of conditions for choosing his weapon. The first aspect he considers is that the weapon must have been used in his previous world, and the second factor is that he should be able to adapt to it with ease. Considering these two factors, Hajin finally decides which weapon to choose. His particular selection catches the attention of the other students, even his professor. His surprised professor addresses Hajin and asks him if the pistol he is holding in his hand is really the weapon he is going to choose. It is funny how this man decided to do things the American way and bring a gun to a knife fight. Hajin receives a confused look from his professor, who remembers that the cadet had enlisted as a sword user in his previous academy. Deciding to make up an excuse, Hajin claims that he changed his mind, a surprising reason that makes his professor accept, although he does not understand why Hajin would have decided to change his specialized weapon. Right upon entering the academy, the professor confirms his choice, since in this manhwa world, the student chooses their own destiny in the cube. With frustration, he advises Hajin to remember that the responsibility for choosing his destiny falls on him. Suddenly, the protagonist's super hearing ability kicks in, and he immediately hears murmurs from the other students mocking him for choosing a pistol. None of them can comprehend his reason for using a firearm in an academy that is supposed to train elite heroes. Some even wonder if they should warn him during combat practice, seeing him as an attention seeker and nothing more. Despite the typical manhwa bullies mocking him, the protagonist explains that pistols are actually reliable. Even in this world, they are the best weapon for common people who don't have access to magical superpowers. The bullets used in this manhwa are a special type, as magic bullets have mana built into them, which releases a destructive shot that is even more devastating and fierce than normal bullets. However, those are the only advantages of a pistol. The reason they are considered a bad choice and looked down upon is because they do not have the ability to grow in power, a major drawback in any action manhwa. This is demonstrated by Kim Hak, who effortlessly shatters a bullet with his bare fists. The narrator adds that the limitation of magic bullets lies in their destructive power, which is always fixed no matter who is using the weapon. The second reason has to do with their construction. They have a weak origin and foundation. This world differs from the real one in the sense that myths and legends are materialized. These myths and relics take shape and become weapons, a key feature of this manhwa's power system, granting the wielder an immense advantage in combat. The more ancient the origin, the greater its overall power, elevating the weapon's quality tier, which is the most crucial factor in determining its effectiveness. Because of that, none of the cadets try to choose modern, newly created weapons, since they have weak origin points from being manufactured in the modern era. Older medieval weapons are preferred and are generally stronger, as users rely on their personal skills rather than the destructive power of magic bullets, and even grow their power by using the weapons, overcoming their limitations. But everything that Hajin has mentioned so far is basically useless to him, as he has nothing he can benefit from, and he's definitely not the protagonist of this manhwa. He doesn't know how a sword works, and believes his skills with a melee weapon will be much worse than the other cadets. Hajin believes he chose a pistol for a good reason. He knows how to use it, and it will effectively help him earn story points, because simply using the pistol will surely make him stand out among his peers. The more important he is to the manhwa's story, the more story points he'll earn. That's what he's hoping for. Now that he's done deciding on a weapon, his next concern is obtaining a talent. Talent is a special ability in this manhwa world, so special it's considered a superpower. Each person is supposed to have only one talent or superpower, but there are some people who are exempt from this rule. There's the protagonist of the story, Suho, who has not yet manifested his talent and already possesses the skills of a sword saint. The scene shifts to Suho, who catches up with Noun to train. His dense protagonist-like dialogue earns him Noun's ire, who doesn't understand how a guy like him ended up at the top of their class. Suho changes the subject and mentions that there is another outstanding student besides him in the class. At first, Noun is confused, but then she remembers he's talking about Hajin. Just hearing that guy's name brings a sour expression to her face. It's because this student, Hajin, is a joke for being called the top student of the class. Noun can't understand how he's taken seriously when he carries a tiny pistol with a small range. She assumes the guy probably gave up on becoming a hero and stuck with silly weapons. Noun wonders if this is Hajin's strategy to drop out sometime during the year, but upon hearing those words, Suho can't help but criticize her for being so rash about the situation. Noun doesn't understand what he's talking about and looks at him with a bewildered expression. She lashes out at him for wasting her time instead of training. While they're talking about Hajin, he's right there, nodding off and wondering if he'll gain SP from people talking behind his back. Returning to our guy, Hajin reflects that the protagonist of this manhwa, Suho, is supposed to become the greatest hero of all by using his one and only gift, which means that gifts are also equally important for Hajin. He doesn't want to waste the opportunity to buy his first gift. Using his manual, Hajin writes himself a Deadeye gift, a skill that will help him handle long-range weapons with precision. As a consequence of writing his new skill, 10,000 SP have been deducted from his account. The system is so advanced that it edits everything else by itself, providing him with numerous advantages from the skill he just wrote, such as bullet time and others. The skill is useful not just for his pistol, but for all long-range weapons, which means Hajin could also use bows now. To top off the benefits, it's a growth-type skill, so even if it seems terrible at the moment, he can always nurture it and improve its abilities. It's a valuable long-term investment. Hajin believes it's best to stick with what he's got, and with his preparations ready, he feels prepared for whatever comes next. With the only gift he has, all that's left is to bet everything on it and survive until the main story of this manhwa comes to an end. The scene shifts to his class. The professor is explaining strategies on how cadets should deal with towers and dungeons. The funniest part is that Hajin realizes the explanations he wrote in his novel are now appearing in this class's textbooks. Imagine taking a class on material you wrote and created yourself. Hajin is having an easy time, enjoying the lecture. Since he has nothing new to learn, he is actively using his observation and reading gifts to help him gain more information. More details are provided about these two gifts. Observation allows him to observe everything in his field of vision. He can see through things and even read what's on their laptop without having to make any effort. The professor instructs them to review the lecture's contents, as their written exam should be starting soon. Nan is feeling frustrated. She's bored to death and can't stand the lecture anymore. Suddenly, the Veritas class is interrupted by someone instructing the cadets to assemble in the plaza. Hearing this, Nan gets excited, as she can finally escape the boring lecture. It's time for practical training, a subject our boy Hajin isn't looking forward to. Arriving at the training arena, the professor explains as everyone should already know the class content. First, they will form teams of 4 cadets each, composed of 2 warriors, 1 marksman, and finally 1 support warrior. Furthermore, these teams will remain the same until the midterm exams arrive. All teams must be balanced between high-ranking and low-ranking cadets for a fair competition. The instructor tells them to go find their teammates immediately. Hajin glances at the status board, surprised to notice he's not on Sujo's or Nan's team. Worst of all, he's stuck on a team with the one person he didn't want to be paired with. The person in question is Jonah, which causes a surprising expression to appear on his face. Things are unfolding exactly as they did in the Manhwa novel. Many main characters were written specifically to interact with the story's protagonist, causing events to unfold and advance the plot of the manhwa. However, among those characters, Jonah is the most special. She sports beautiful purple hair and, at the same time, is the most favored cadet from the best guild in Korea. The bottom line is that she is the successor to the Yu family, so her family background is also very strong. In the original manhwa, Sujo is supposed to oppose Jonah at first, but he eventually wins her trust and they become friends later, becoming the team's support. For this very reason, it is crucial for Hajin to get close to Jonah to follow the manhwa's plot, because interacting with her will allow him to get more story points, helping him become important in the plot. With a determined expression, Hajin is prepared to do whatever it takes to attract Jonah's attention and get involved with her. Jonah's team members arrive and greet her. Aside from her and Hajin, the team includes Osun and Oski, forming a team of 4 as planned. Since Jonah is a thoughtful and calculating person, she considers not speaking to them at first, but she eventually agrees because they are her teammates. The funny thing is, she has a very prim and formal attitude with her teammates once she decides to talk to them. Both of her teammates find it strange. Jonah turns her attention to the final member of the group. Hajin presents himself as he approaches Jonah, even though he's a little scared. He knows his relationship with Jonah will turn sour if he isn't self-confident, a key element for any manhwa protagonist. For being the brilliant guy who chose a pistol as his weapon. The dude is just running his mouth, not knowing that their professor is about to give him a good scolding for his ignorant talk. Osun gets a scare from their instructor, who roars at everyone to get moving on the monster hunting mission. The directions have already been provided to each team through their smartwatches. The team sets off and moves through the grain field. Jonah checks her smartwatch, which indicates they are close to their target. She wants her team to prepare for what's coming. More information about the monster will be revealed once they arrive at the location. But while they run forward with ease, our poor boy is struggling over here. He needs some David Goggins-level motivation, because this man has never run this much in his life, despite his stamina stats being above average. He can barely keep up with his team. To make matters worse, it's not like these guys are special. They're the recognized average standard for a cube cadet. Jonah and the others stop, realizing they've arrived at the location of their target. This part of the map is called the 8th coast of the training zone. Ahead, there's a boat where a monster is supposed to appear. And speaking of our creepy creature, the humpback octopus black makes itself known by devouring the boat with its huge tentacles. This is a classic monster reveal in a manhwa. Jonah believes it would be best for them to share a battle strategy and figure out what they should do. The monster they're facing is a low intermediate grade creature, and its physical attack is known to be very weak. The real problem is the humps protruding from the creature's head. It is explained that the humpback octopus black detects danger and launches its small octopuses to attack its enemies. These little babies are no joke. They are bloodthirsty, and each one of them is dangerous enough to turn humans into mummies. This manhwa certainly doesn't pull any punches. Osun suggests they should immediately attack the swarm of baby octopuses when the fight starts. The girl, Asuki, believes they'll need a sniper to handle the small octopuses with their gun, so she thinks Hajin would be the best for the job. However, in strong opposition to this idea, Jonah states that she will be the one to take care of the baby octopuses. She wants the rest of her team to save their skills until after she's finished, because Jonah believes they will need them, and annihilate the monster in a single blow, as it has super fast regeneration abilities. Jonah's sudden dismissal of Hajin's contribution strikes him as odd. He immediately realizes that she's simply ignoring him and doesn't even think he's worthy of being part of this training. Jonah asks if the rest of her team is ready and signals the start of the operation, leaving our boy a bit annoyed by her damn attitude. The black humpback octopus unleashes its destruction, destroying the boat, while Ozuna uses his battle axe to get the creature's attention on him. Its loud clattering sound is enough to attract the octopus and make it approach the shore. Furious, the monster lunges toward Ozuna, rampaging. The poor guy is terrified by its size and runs quickly. Asuki is prepared, while our boy Hajin is also nervous, holding a small Glock. The only determined fighter among them is Jonah, a whip user who is ready to take down the monster immediately. Just as they discussed, the black humpback octopus senses danger and immediately shoots out many baby octopuses from the top of its head. This makes Ozuna panic, as he realizes he's the target. The babies, growling, head straight to bite him. Before they can tear him to shreds, Jonah intervenes like a queen and uses her whip to take them down. She stands majestically before the monster, impressing her teammates with a display of her power. To top it off, Jonah's combat capabilities by themselves make her the 7th strongest cadet inside the cube among the rookies, a true Manhwa prodigy. She gives Ozuna the chance to flee while she faces the monster alone. Jonah manipulates her whip to strike the monster, causing the octopus to fly into a rage and attack her with its tentacles. Jonah quickly dodges the attack, evading, but just as she's in midair, a baby octopus is about to attack her from behind. Oski alerts her to the octopus behind her, but before Jonah can react, it's shot by a long-range weapon, leaving her stunned. There's only one explanation that makes sense. It's Hajin's gun, who saved her at that moment. Seeing him save her annoys Jonah, who finally acknowledges his name. Let's take a little detour and talk about what SP points are capable of. As stated before, they can be exchanged for stat points. They also increase when the importance of Hajin among the main characters and the story grows, given that he's supposed to be added as an extra in this manhwa world. Standing out and gaining popularity is a difficult thing. The main characters already fill the manhwa's story, after all. So the only other option to gain importance is for Hajin to interact with and assist in the main protagonist's manhwa storyline. That's what he did by saving Jonah's life. His shot surprises every one of his team members, and a distracted Jonah reminds him to know his place, as she didn't expect him to participate in the operation. But while she's distracted, the huge octopus starts releasing more of its miniature-sized models to take care of them. Jonah prepares to fight them, but some of them are even attacking Hajin. It's not a difficult fight for Hajin, who can read their attack patterns with ease, much like a manhwa protagonist. Hajin closes his eyes, focusing all his attention on doing his best in that moment. He activates one of his abilities called Bullet Time, which was one of the gifts the system created and edited for him. Using it slows his perception of time for 3 seconds, a classic manhwa skill, easily allowing Hajin to become Yonbi and shoot these monsters with ease. After locking his target on each of his enemies, the guy embraces his American rights and starts shooting left and right. By the time the 3 seconds are up, Hajin has shot all the creatures with his gun, even the ones that were targeting Jonah. As the duration runs out, he releases his bullets, which fly out and melt each of the octopuses. Now, Jonah perceives an opportunity to attack, so she unleashes her whip and throws it toward the giant octopus's head, tying it up. She orders her team to attack, and Shinigami make their move, unleashing a joint magic attack called Release the Strike, finishing off the monster in one powerful blow. Finally, the black-humped octopus is defeated, with its ugly brain impacting the shore. An exhausted Hajin falls to the ground in typical manhwa protagonist fashion. After that, their team's collective results are calculated, giving them a clear time of just under 1 hour. It's far from the best, but it still allowed them to get 16th place on the leaderboard. With that, the first round of monsters in this manhwa has been cleared. The total time spent eliminating the monster places them in 16th place among the 100 teams. Jonah is surprised to see this, as their fight was recorded by a drone device, for monitoring purposes. They can use that data to analyze their mistakes and improve in the future, and while getting 16th place is an achievement, for Jonah, it's a terrible score. She expected something higher, and is even more jealous because Noun got a higher score than her, in both individual and team performance, a classic manhwa rivalry, placing her 4th among the 100 teams. While Jonah intended to increase the gap between their families, she can't believe she's so far behind. Then there is Jonghak, the arrogant one, who seems to have a thing for Nan and won't stop looking at her from afar. Now, annoyed, Jonah approaches Nan with unbridled rage, but in a comical turn of events, she acts as if they were close friends. Like a fake friend, she tries to get information about the performance of Nan on her team. The girl is still upset they got 4th place, as she was hoping to at least beat Jonghak in this intense manhwa competition. Jonah confesses to her that she got 16th place. Her expression is calm and stoic on the outside, but inside she's shattered with rage. But Nan is quite surprised that they got 16th place with a loser like Hajin on their team. After all, she thinks he must be the reason they rank so low in this manhwa tournament. But Jonah knows the truth. The reason she is treating him that way is because they took 50 minutes to get to their location due to Hajin's resistance. If only he were faster, they could have arrived in 10 minutes and completed the mission faster, but other than that, his performance has been impressive to her. He helped significantly in the battle against the monsters they faced. Jonah clearly remembers how he shot all the small beings with his gun before they could even reach him. Jonah wonders if an achievement like that could even be possible using common magic bullets, as Ajin's achievements in this manhwa suddenly seem so easy and powerful. From having no interest in him, Jonah is now curious to know the man's true identity. As for Hajin, he just finished his training. I bet he must be pushing himself hard to improve his stamina after what happened there. The author explains that he forgot to check his alerts since he started training and wonders how many points he has earned. As luck has always been helping him to his fullest potential, his accuracy in defeating the monster has increased drastically. His skill has also experienced growth, a typical progression in a great manhwa. Now, every shot will be considered a sure shot. Ajin feels that his senses, like sight and hearing, have also sharpened, and overall, his story points have increased by 27, remembering what happened with his performance in the monster round. Ajin reflects that luck must be playing a key role there as well, a stat that is often overpowered in a manhwa, helping with his SP points. His general plan of getting involved with Jonah is going well so far, helping him with the points he needs. His physical stats have also increased thanks to his training. Strength, stamina, and health have seen a boost, which is further amplified by his luck stat, a core mechanic in this manhwa. Since Ajin has already worked on his stats up to this point, he thinks he should conclude his training session for the day and head back home. Back in her dorm room, Jonah is busy reviewing the recordings of their fight in the monster round. She is particularly drawn to the impressive shooting skills Ajin displays in this manhwa, as he was able to fire 60 bullets in the span of 3 seconds with a single pistol. To put it into perspective, Jonah toys with the idea of firing 20 bullets per second, but finds it impossible to do that with a pistol, which makes her wonder if it was an automatic pistol of some kind. She also comments on Ajin's physical stats. His agility is excellent, but his typical health and physique are lower than the rest of the cadets. To top it off, he switched weapons out of nowhere during weapon selection. Jonah's keen senses tell her something is off, a classic manhwa trope, as she doesn't even remember this guy from the military academy. While she contemplates this, Jonah receives a message from Jonghak, who seems to have a romantic interest in her. She tells him she's busy analyzing the recordings. Jonah wants to see if he has found anyone valuable among their team, as she obviously plans to take over the best guild in Korea in the future. However, Jonghak is surprised and doesn't think anyone among their team is worthy of mention or special. More importantly, he wants to know about the mysterious shooter, as his performance is the only one that piques Jonghak's curiosity. With a smile on her face, Jonah gets excited that her crush is showing interest in her after all, a sweet moment in the manhwa. Jonah comments that he's doing just average for his rank, which by the way is in the 900s among the cadets. Jonghak is surprised and wonders if Ajin just got lucky. Jonah reflects on this comment and wonders if Ajin's performance was really a fluke and if he truly was just lucky. The scene ends there. Now let's talk about a new topic. The guild building known as the Holy Grace of God. Here, the vice captain is obsessed with Sujo's stellar performance. His recording among the others has captivated her. The guild's vice captain, she comments on Sujo's perfect and precise movements, as well as his excellent swordsmanship, something that has never been seen before in this manhwa. Sujo has reached such perfection that it looks like a gentle dance, yet it's combined with a furious cutting strength that splits space in two. The 3 top guilds in Korea currently have their eyes on this young talent. A scenario straight out of a Hunter manhwa. They are determined to recruit him for his powers. Suho is one of those people, as she wants to recruit him as soon as possible, especially since he is currently a free agent. Her next person of interest is Ajin, and surprisingly, she's shocked that the boy uses a gun. Of all weapons, a gun. Her assistant confirms it, indicating that he has sparked some interest. In the guild community, many people reviewed the recordings, since Jonah was part of his team, and they wanted to see his performance. The most talked about topic on the manhwa forums is how he fired 60 shots with a non-automatic pistol in 3 seconds. It makes no realistic sense, because even if his extreme agility were taken into account, Oda's pistol couldn't handle the impact from that much recoil in such a short time. Because his talent is surrounded by mystery and fascination, some people have started calling him unorthodox. The vice captain also finds out that he changed his main weapon from a sword to a pistol right after entering the prestigious institution. Suho recognizes him as someone who has reached enlightenment, the same phenomenon in which a person manifests their special talent or ability. Of course, it's impossible to know from the start what talent will manifest, so some cadets prefer to switch weapons after manifesting their gifts, as it doesn't match what they are currently using. However, this kind of situation is known to cause a setback in a cadet's career, delaying them by at least 3 years in terms of performance. That is why the military academy usually encourages students to engage with various weapons and master them instead of relying on just one. Suho can't believe the boy has become an enlightened warrior at 17, a true manhwa protagonist, but she thinks his talent is limited if it is only related to firearms. Still, she believes he is worthy enough to be considered a candidate. She quickly changes her mind and decides it would be best to allow Hajin's talent to manifest before trying to recruit him. She wants to see if he is truly capable of meeting her expectations as an unorthodox. It's Wednesday, which means a training session is underway, a classic scene in any academy manhwa. Sujo is facing another student in an even clash. This part of the training program is called anti-personnel training, usually conducted in small groups where only training weapons are used, allowing for easy results with few to no injuries. However, for Kim Odin, he's being scolded for performing terribly. The poor guy has the worst luck in the world. Despite his passive skill, he is the only student who had to face his teacher instead of another student, and as a result, he lost 18 times in a row. The real problem with this training is that the training weapons aren't ready to be used, meaning that using a real weapon would obviously cause injuries if facing another student. That's why the instructor has taken it upon himself to face Hajin. The poor guy is suffering and asks to surrender, but his pathetic pleas are ignored by his teacher, who prepares to punch him right in the face. The warrior dodges a critical hit that shatters the ground. His master is amazed that he dodged the attack, a classic manhwa moment, as Hajin proceeds to dodge another 2 blows from him, which leads the instructor to realize that, although he looks like a useless student with terrible posture, he actually has a godlike pair of eyes for tracking his attacks. Clairvoyance, another skill Hajin obtained as part of his gift of the dead eye, sharpens his senses and allows him to detect his target's movement path, helping Hajin vaguely evade every attack. It's true that he can see the attacks, but the hardest part is dodging them with his own body. The rest of the students watch his performance and write him off as clumsy and lazy, a common trope for an underdog manhwa protagonist. By 40, so he somehow achieved what he wanted, but he hates the fact that people are making fun of him. After the grueling training, Hajin relaxes by having a refreshing drink. When he turns to his right, he sees Jonah walking past him. She shoots him a disdainful look, almost as if she sees him as an inferior, like he's a nobody. It's funny, because he's the author who wrote about her personality in the first place, a classic manhwa setup. By name before tossing a drink at her, she catches it with her reflexes and, confused, asks if he's challenging her to a fight. The poor guy's form is so bad that she thinks he's literally trying to attack her. Hajin explains that he's just trying to extend his gratitude to Jonah for helping them advance in the training session. In his head, this experiment is simple but important. He wants to see how many story points he'll get from a simple interaction with one of the main characters of this manhwa world. After all, he usually gains 40 points from side characters. Jonah tosses the drink back and reminds him, the fool, not to treat her so casually, a first warning he shouldn't take lightly. As she turns away, Hajin has a smile on his face because he's already gotten what he wanted. As Jonah carries her bag outside, she feels confused upon noticing her bag is heavier than before. Detecting the subtle change, she opens it only to find another can inside. Our clever author was stealthy enough to plant a second can inside her bag, earning Jonah's hatred. This kind of interaction is what makes this manhwa so interesting. She wants to crush the can, but remembers that a simple, innocent can did nothing wrong on its own. As for Jonah, she loves common foods like burgers and Coke. However, she's never bought the product for herself due to her family's reputation. This experiment hinged on Hajin exploiting this part of her personality, a part that no one else is supposed to know. What's more, he didn't gain many points from a simple conversation, which motivates him once more to intervene in the main story events, since he already knows what will happen next in the manhwa. Hajin believes the ambush by the demonic humans at the National Arms Museum is about to happen. Demonic humans are evil entities that have made a pact with a demon. They are granted a great amount of power in exchange for their souls. Thus, demons use them as tools to do their bidding. The incident that will occur is caused by a demonic human hiding in the museum, a popular trope in action manhwa, with the goal of eliminating a particular target. Eventually, the demonic human is defeated by Sujo, a key event in this manhwa, and the rest of the main characters are also at the event. Through this event, Sujo gains recognition and validation from the other main characters. The main protagonists will be Sujo and Nan, who will fight against the demonic humans in this action manhwa. The villain won't be that difficult to face, as this happens at the beginning of the novel and is effectively Sujo's first enemy. Knowing what will happen, Hajin is already thinking of ways to intervene in the event. While looking for a way to get to the museum, one of the instructors yells at him for standing aimlessly outside the dorms. Hajin decides to grab his laptop and head out. During this time, he receives an important system message that has not yet been revealed. In this institution, there are clubs that are used for extracurricular activities. Within the academy, cadets can register for clubs where they form their own independent activities. Among those clubs are academic ones, martial arts, and even simple hobbies like painting and playing other instruments. There are hundreds of clubs within the cube. Perhaps the greatest benefit of this classic manhwa setting is that they not only offer a space for personal development, but they also allow cadets to connect, network, and get to know each other better. Finally, the day came when Hajin decided he would join a club of his own at the cube's gate. Hajin becomes a member of the travel club, where he is welcomed by Annam. The club president is excited to welcome so many first-year club members. In fact, when he first received the applications, Annam couldn't believe what he was reading. He had been blessed with incredible cadets after all. Annam welcomes them once more and highlights their club's objective. The goal is to rest, which sounds simple enough. They can access a portal up to 2 times a month to travel outside the cube. For their first orientation, Annam mentions they will visit a nearby place which is none other than Seoul, the capital of Korea. Hajin processes his thoughts, realizing that a trip to Seoul should be easy to manage if they simply make groups of 2. So far, nothing has changed from the original manhwa. Hajin reviews his objective for the day, which is to participate in the first main story arc of the manhwa, called the Seoul Arms Museum. When he's there with some of the main characters, Hajin will try to manipulate the story from his side. The club president instructs them to go ahead and draw numbers, which really catches Hajin's attention, as he had never planned for the group formation to be like this in the original manhwa. Still, it doesn't bother him, as he doesn't care and just goes with the flow on his own. When it comes to his group partner, lo and behold, you'd be surprised, but he ended up partnering with Jonah of all people. Jonah, being herself, cautiously emphasizes that they should go ahead on their own. Hajin agrees with that and lets her do her own thing. Before leaving, Jonah turns around with a lethal look on her face, a face that screams, "I will kill you if you ever talk to me so casually again." This being his second offense, Hajin receives his final warning, as Jonah doesn't plan on letting him off the hook next time. The guy simply accepts his fate and moves on. The scene shifts to the National Weapons Museum, which is supposed to be the setting for the first arc of the manhwa story. It's the largest exhibition hall for replica weapons in the entire country. Although it's a remarkable place, Hajin walks through the crowd disinterestedly, spotting Nan to his left, who seems to be fixated on a particular weapon. Since Nan is nearby, Hajin realizes that the main protagonist of the story must also be close to him. Sujo is just up ahead, observing a weapon on his own. As the main protagonist of the manhwa, Hajin tries to strike up a conversation with him and asks if he's looking at the 7-branched sword. He also introduces himself at the same time, which reminds Sujo of who he is. He clearly remembers Hajin as the elite shooter who joined the travel club. Hajin reflects on Sujo's personality, as he was written to be strong and handsome with a good heart. Often, his own readers would leave comments of hate for the author for making such an unrealistic and cheesy character. Damn, I guess haters are gonna hate. Suddenly, Sujo states that there's a weapons exhibition nearby and is interested in checking it out with Hajin. As Hajin agrees to his idea, he thinks that their meeting at the weapons exhibition won't even happen, because of what's about to come. Out of nowhere, the museum turns red and a broadcast sounds off, warning about the appearance of monsters right outside the museum. A classic manhwa trope. The appearance of monsters strikes fear into the hearts of the civilians, their excitement turning to horror, as everyone begins to panic and frantically search for an exit. People push past each other, ignoring even children and acting recklessly. In this state of panic and chaos, a person smashes the glass with their fist, grabbing everyone's attention. Her strength alone makes everyone stop in their tracks. Even Sujo is surprised when he discovers that Noun is the one responsible. She tells everyone to calm down, as the museum's reserve hero will be there soon to deal with the threat. Seizing the opportunity, she takes the bow from the exhibit and reminds everyone that they'll become easy targets for the monsters if they run outside. But her reckless move activates the security systems, trapping them all inside. She tells everyone to grab a weapon, as they need a way to protect themselves until the real heroes arrive to confront the threat. Suddenly, Non senses the presence of a dangerous man in the distance and readies herself. This man radiates a dark red energy. His face and violent aura confirm that he is a demonic human, responsible for this malevolent plan. Hajin reflects that this demonic human is called Lucius's dog, who becomes a key villain for Sujo's growth in the manhwa's story. The demon unleashes its claws, preparing to slice Nan. But just as he's distracted and focused on what's in front of him, Sujo takes advantage of this moment to attack him from behind with his 7-branch sword. His sword is about to cut down the demon in a single blow, and the events of the main manhwa story have not yet changed. He is destined to defeat this demon with ease, but for some surprising reason, Sujo is struck down in a devastating attack, his body taking a hit. Villain's terrifying attack and collapses to the ground right before Hajin's eyes. The author is expressionless and speechless, as this wasn't supposed to happen. After all, Sujo's body is on the ground, just moments away from Hajin, who can't understand what happened. The story that he himself wrote was clearly not supposed to go like this. Sujo was meant to win in this manhwa, and although he would have struggled at first, he still had the power to completely annihilate the demonic human. That's what he thought was going to happen, but that's not what happened. Sujo's easy defeat causes immense worry for Non, who screams his name as he coughs up blood and is barely able to stand. Hajin knows his condition is severe and that he certainly doesn't have enough time to recover from this monumental setback. The demonic human approaches Sujo with his menacing energy, preparing to finish him off. Non scrambles to come up with a plan and quickly launches her arrows directly at his face, but this guy is so tough he takes them like they're his lunch. A confused Non relentlessly tries to take him down, but nothing works, as he seems invincible to her arrows. Seeing that none of her arrows have any effect on him, Non's face succumbs to despair, her confidence wavering as she simply can't comprehend what is happening. The worst part is that the demonic human isn't even using a special talent or skill to block her arrows, he's just tanking them with the strength of his body. That's how strong his physical stats are. Hajin senses the danger for Non as the enemy is closing in on her. The demonic human unleashes his claws, aiming straight for her face. It seems like this is the end for Non, right up until Sujo jumps back into the fight with a kick to the face. Fortunately, he was able to get up with Non buying him time, but before they can even catch up, Sujo is sent flying, barely able to block the dark energy wave with his sword. The demonic human surprises Sujo by entering a transformation state, a classic manhwa power-up. Enveloping himself in his shadow, his strength becomes so overwhelming for Sujo that he is immediately knocked down. Non starts shooting the demonic human from behind in an attempt to delay Sujo's death, but as it turns its attention to her, the monster unleashes a gigantic claw, aiming for Non's face and smashing her into the wall. Everything that Hajin is witnessing before his eyes is the definition of a disaster. He is horrified by the reality that any of them could die right now. Now that he's seen 2 instances where his novel deviates from the script he wrote, Hajin can't understand what's causing these drastic changes to the main manhwa storyline. He opens his laptop in an attempt to save the situation. Hajin gathers his bullets with his confidence wavering, realizing he won't be able to hurt the demonic human with his mana bullets, even if he uses them for a critical hit. It's just going to be difficult. Still, since this manhwa world was created by him, Hajin is confident that most of the major settings shouldn't change and, knowing this, he begins to type on his keyboard, modifying the attributes of his mana bullets to suit his purpose. Just like a system manhwa character would, he increases the attack power to 6 points and spends a total of 100 story points just to make the modification possible, reloads his gun and prepares for the fight, highlighting the importance of having heroes with versatile abilities to overcome the situation in this manhwa. Attributes and affinity alone allow him to reach greater heights, while Sujo and the demonic human are locked in a stalemate. This gives Hajin the perfect opportunity to shoot. Knowing the demonic human has a dark attribute, Hajin uses the one attribute that will eliminate darkness. He calls out Sujo's name and yells for him to get out of the way, commanding the use of the light attribute. Hajin creates the white light bullet and fires a single shot that confirms impact with the demonic human's body, unleashing a blue beam of light. That single bullet completely destroys the demonic human's arm, causing it immense pain, and at the same time, freeing Naomi from its grasp. As the dark energy evaporates, Naomi falls to the ground, while Hajin thinks his contribution is enough. Now that the enemy is severely injured, giving Sujo enough time to finish the fight, his body trembles from the use of his ability, as he places the rest of his hopes on Sujo, trusting that the protagonist of this manhwa will end the fight with one final attack. Sujo charges his weapon and covers his body in a blue aura, activating the magical power of the Holy Sword, which is so strong it can destroy anything in existence. The ultimate slash ends the fight, as Sujo destroys the demonic human with a single move. The monster is defeated as its body hits the ground, an exhausted Sujo barely able to stand. The same goes for Naomi. He approaches her and asks if she is okay. Torn and angry, she slaps his arm away. Hajin recommends they leave her be, since her brother will soon arrive to comfort her. He knows this because it happens in the original manhwa story. But his carelessness backfired, as he received a shocked look from both main characters. After all, an extra character like him should not know anything about their lives. Naomi's voice wavers as she tries to question him, but her condition overcomes her, so she stops. Meanwhile, the monsters just outside the museum are taken down by the vice captain and her twin swords. Fortunately, the situation outside is resolved, and all the monsters have been eliminated. She asks about the situation inside the museum, and learns about the demonic human, who was instantly defeated thanks to the Cube Cadets, a surprising turn of events for any manhwa reader. She asks for their names. The vice captain is surprised to learn that Naomi, Sujo, and Hajin were involved in the incident. She runs straight into the museum because the only thing that matters to her is meeting Sujo. At that moment, her excitement makes her wonder what she should talk to him about. Hajin is walking out of the museum when he suddenly runs into her. Curious, she tries to ask about Sujo, but Hajin is already one step ahead and tells the vice captain that he is inside the museum. She enters, but at that moment she experiences a shock, because this random cube cadet seemed to know her intention to find Sujo from the very beginning. A strange development in this manhwa. Another mistake caused by our credible author. The guy is taking a break in a park and reflects that he did not expect Suho to meet him like that. He wonders if the situation is related to the change in the manhwa's story. Somehow, to sort out his thoughts, Hajin tries to analyze it from the beginning. He considers himself nothing more than an extra, an outsider, and deems his current importance insignificant. This manhwa story has been progressing smoothly until now, so it's impossible that he was directly involved in altering its course. But then, the realization finally hits him. He forgot something. And that something is the fact that this novel also has a co-author. I bet you didn't expect that plot twist. Hajin explains that the current version of the story is a remake of his novel. This version is based on the email he received from one of his fans at the beginning of the story. That's why things beyond his expectations have happened in the main manhwa story arc. However, if that's the case, then the predictions he has been operating under until now will be useless. This thought terrifies Hajin because he won't know what will happen next. He checks his laptop. There's a message about a review. The message says there were no major threats in the story, allowing the protagonist to easily get rid of any threat and achieve a quiet victory. This kind of development only risks the reader getting bored with the story, which is why from now on every boss character in the story will become significantly stronger than before, regardless of the fact that this could create an unpredictable and chaotic story environment. The instructor calls for Hajin and Sujo after the incident to make a report. He has briefly explained the situation to them, and doesn't want to go into detail for now, prioritizing their well-being. A curious and concerned Sujo asks about Naoni's condition. He learns from the instructor that she requested medical leave and left with her family for the time being. The instructor advises them both to follow her example and return to their dorms as well, saying he'll leave them be, giving Sujo a chance to talk to Hajin. Calling his name, the blue-haired protagonist wants to investigate further. He wants to know why Hajin said what he did to Naoni about her brother. For a moment, Hajin seems confused, but then he recalls his words and tries to talk about it, but he remembers the email he received from the author, and for some reason decides to stop and ask why it matters to Sujo. The protagonist, obviously, is no fool and gets somewhat annoyed that Hajin is playing the fool and not taking him seriously. In his annoyed state, he decides they'll talk about it another time. Let's delve into the character of Chen Aon. The author explains that she graduated 4th in her year at the military academy, is currently enrolled in the Cube, and recognized for her talents and for her connections with the Chai family. She is the daughter of Sin and the younger sister of Chejin Jun. Both are recognizable names to Hajin, who is researching her right now. What he doesn't understand is why she reacted the way she did when he mentioned her brother's name. Suddenly, Hajin reads a news report about the condition of Jin Jun, who suffered severe damage to his health after an operation against monsters. As a consequence, Jin Jun was left in a coma. The operation that led to his disappearance is one Hajin knows, the Demon Suppression Operation, Firestorm. It was supposed to be an event to let Jin Jun build his reputation by neutralizing the threat. This would help him further improve his relationship with the main story's protagonists. For the young Non, the only thing that brought joy to her eyes was seeing her older brother's success as a hero. However, the event changed completely, a twist different from what the original manhwa author would have ever imagined. Jin Jun is the one who got trapped in his own downfall, which led to Non's trauma at that time. He receives another system mail notifying him that any future modifications to the story will be immediately revealed to Hajin, as soon as it points out the changes from the original story. The system also reports that Jin Jun, supporter of the protagonist Kim Suho, has undergone significant changes. In this iteration of the story, we are given a summary of what happened. The hero, gravely injured, was barely awake after receiving a brutal blow. The co-author of this popular manhwa acknowledged that the protagonist already had too many followers, so they made the necessary changes to ensure some of them were eliminated. Poor Jin Jun had to be one of those people. 4 years ago, just after being named a hero for the first time, Jin Jun ended up becoming a demonic seed. Yes, it's much more terrifying than Hajin had imagined, as he never would have predicted such a gruesome plot twist in this action manhwa. The scene cuts to Non's location, where a radio broadcast talks about the sudden monster attack at the National Museum, reporting a figure of 7 fatalities and 50 people injured in the incident. A devastated Non can't bear to listen to the news and turns off the broadcast, lying back on her bed alone, while her worried father calls out her name. Non sees him and wonders what he's doing while off duty. Sinuk doesn't care about his work and asks about her health. Since she's at the hospital, he wants her to get a checkup, a full checkup just to be sure, but Non pretends to be fine and even thinks he's overreacting by coming to visit her. But, of course, he's still a worried father looking after his daughter, despite her claims of being okay. Non asks her father to take her to see Jinjin, at least once, before she is discharged from the hospital. Seeing her fragile state, her father approves his daughter's request. Now, let's get back to the disappearance of Jinjin and explore what demonic seeds are, a terrifying concept in this manhwa. Demons are supposed to be the most powerful entities in this world. More powerful even than demons are humans who possess a unique but terrifying ability to mark other humans and turn them into demonic seeds. Humans who have been marked as demonic seeds eventually go through an incubation period, similar to a parasitic state, where the parasite feeds on its host. Not long after, the demonic seed completely takes over the body, turning the person into a fully transformed demon. This means Jinjin's state is much worse than anticipated, and that one day, he will become a demon. The incubation period usually lasts 5 years before the transformation occurs, and 4 years have passed since the event happened, which means that the condition of Jinjin is nearing his end and will soon become a demon. His little sister heads to see him in his room, a tense scene in this manhwa. Upon entering his room, Hajin reflects that there is only one solution in these situations. Before the demon inside someone's body fully manifests and takes control of the human, the only way to avoid a dreadful fate is to kill them. That is what Non intends to do as she stands before her brother's unconscious state, preparing to speak with him. At the same time, the author thinks it will be impossible, as no one seems to be the right candidate to do it. To kill Jinjin before he transforms into a monster, a task that not even a mercenary in this manhwa would accept, such a dangerous target, as otherwise, his position must be yielded to the next heir. The process of germination also progresses without physical changes, effectively stopping external intervention. The biggest problem is the demon lurking inside Jinjin, which will be too strong and overwhelming for the main protagonist of the story, Kim Sujo, to handle. Hajin also believes that if the true heroes of this manhwa tried to stop a demonic Jinjin, many of their lives would be lost facing such a powerful demon. To prevent that dark future from existing, Hajin is willing to do whatever it takes to stop Jinjin's germination, especially since the heroes will be needed in future events. As Non sits before her brother's unconscious body, Hajin feels a chilling and crushing sense of defeat because he has understood what he must do in this situation. It has to be him who commits the act of taking his life, as that will prevent the darkest future. Non speaks to her brother, mentioning the near-death incident she suffered during today's monster attack. She had never fought such a powerful demon and believed that any ordinary cadet in this manhwa world would not have been able to stop that monster. Although it's annoying to admit, Noun recalls that Hajin was the sniper who intervened and saved her life. Finally, she decides not to talk about him and realizes that she has spent too much time during visiting hours. Noun decides to leave, hoping she can see her brother again soon, but as she leaves, Non stops in her tracks, feeling a sense of approaching terror from her brother. She had tried to suppress her memory, but she could not forget Hajin's words, spoken with such cold eyes, words she interpreted as him mocking her in her state. Noun's eyes shine with determination and rage as she recalls what Hajin said. She decides to go to the Hero Tower, a key location in the manhwa, and see what Vice Captain Suho is doing. She is there, looking at unauthorized documents on her own, risking her position and possibly getting into trouble. Suho is interested in reviewing the records about the museum attack, which is exactly what her assistant is worried about, and she is doing something illegal. Anyway, Suho discovers in the investigation that they found many traces of light attribute magic on the defeated demonic human's body, which also means that the people responsible for defeating it must have been able to use that attribute in the first place. Thoughts about a light attribute mana user, a rare power in this manhwa, surface out of nowhere, which is exciting for the vice captain, as this type of hero would be easy prey for the demons. Since they all have dark attributes, and light mana is their greatest weakness, a staple in many manhwa. Suho wants to recruit this mysterious hero, and can't wait to gather this new talent. Watching the video files, Suho vividly recalls that there were only 3 cadets from the club at the museum, which means that only one of them must be a light attribute user. There are the obvious ones like Suho and Noun, since they are already active in their respective talent houses, but the vice captain is more interested in the 3rd cadet, whom they still know nothing about. To her surprise, the last cadet is none other than Kimahim, the same guy she bumped into at the museum before she left. Speaking of our boy, he's busy typing on his laptop. It turns out that in this manhwa world, no one can see the laptop he's working on, which allows him to review the story's path. without really worrying about the other characters watching him. As soon as he found out about the invisible laptop, Hajin went a step further and added another feature. Immediately, his laptop alerts him to changes in the story. At the training center, Rachel is giving Damien a very hard time. This girl has handed him nearly 20 defeats in a row, to the point where he's begging for someone to switch partners with him. Hajin's new feature is related to detection and alteration. If anything changes within 30 meters of the original story, Hajin will receive an immediate alert, which will help him identify unusual situations in time. After all, you can't just wait for messages from the co-author or depend on yourself to detect everything detail by detail. Using this method, he has made sure he's aware of any deviation from the original manhwa plot, of any unexpected situations. But while our boy is happy with the new feature, he certainly didn't expect that. Non, filled with fury and with a terrifying bloodthirsty aura, would appear from behind, looking torn up and enraged. She asks him for a sparring match. Hajin observes her and simply refuses, as it wouldn't benefit him to fight her. Noun calls him a coward for backing down, and immediately blames him for mentioning her family out of the blue. The rest of the students wonder if a fight is about to break out. Hajin explains that he won't participate because of her bullets, as they could cause him serious injuries in a training session, and he doesn't want to be a part of that. Non takes this comment as a sign of condescension, becoming even more furious with him. The training instructor arrives just in time to interrupt their argument, a classic manhwa trope. He yells at Noun for trying to fight Cadet Kimahim, especially since he is the only student without a training weapon. Considering the risks and potential injuries, Hajin is strictly forbidden from training with other students. Non storms off furiously, leaving Hajin to realize that it might already be too late to offer an apology at this point. Hajin emphasizes that he has a different priority in mind, which is why he has been training like crazy to become even stronger, as shown by the bruises on his hands. That priority is none other than killing Non's older brother, which also makes apologizing to her seem like a pointless cause in this dark manhwa. If he gets close to her now, he'll ruin everything between them later and cause an even worse betrayal to Non. The scene cuts from there and transitions to another club orientation. Many students have gathered there. The club president is Jung-hoon, who leads the Baridi Study Club, and he lays out the main goal of his club, which is to perform monster analysis and specialize in researching tactics. Their goal is to meet and engage in active discussions about monsters. While he gives his orientation speech, many students are simply captivated by his presence and good looks. This charming character possesses a unique quality to capture everyone's attention without fail, but it's all a facade, and the only one who knows this is Hajin. He realizes that Hun is using the power of a demon. This goes back to the first half of the manhwa's story involving the QV institution. As its main setting, various events like cadet disappearances and monster invasions are supposed to occur at this stage, and this guy named Hun, the club leader and president, is actually a cunning guy who manipulates events from the shadows. His appearance is just deceiving. Hun is responsible for forming a pact with the demon Lilith and, in exchange for obtaining her enchantment powers, he became a monster due to Hun's true dark objectives, a sinister plot for this manhwa. Hajin explains that he joined the study club for a reason. Among the cadets, Jonah also seems to be unaffected by Hun's charming appearance. The club president decides to show the students part of their usual routine and how they perform analyses. A hologram of an upper intermediate level monster called the Tyrant of Monsters is projected onto the stage, a sight worthy of any great manhwa. This monster first appeared after the explosive event that caused the invasion of towers and dungeons in their world, and has so far remained undefeated. Hun points out that any information about the higher-level monsters is critical and invaluable to the institution, as this helps them devise plans to subdue the monsters even further in this manhwa. By just acquiring information on a monster's vital points, they can sell it for billions. A playful Hun decides to pick his target from the audience and asks Jonah for her opinion on the creature's vital points. Jonah replies that its vital points haven't even been discovered, and she's right, but Hun still thinks her opinion would be valuable, since that's what they do as a fun activity in the club. As a final note, the club president invites them to attend the after-party to share their opinions on the creature's vital points. With the speech concluded, Hajin approaches Jonah to talk and asks if she's interested in attending. In response, she casually ignores him. The guy tries again, but this time he shouts to get her attention. Jonah stops to confirm that she will attend the after-party, as it might help her with some information that she could use. Trying to understand her intentions, Hajin blurts out and asks if she's going to use that information to lead her future raid team in her guild. This comment gets Jonah's attention. The essence of the Straits Guild is a powerhouse with a rich history from when monsters first emerged from the gates 50 years ago, a foundational event in the world of this manhwa. Jonah's clan founded this guild, which explains why it's one of the most influential in the entire country. Hajin impresses Jonah even more with his deep knowledge of her guild's recent dealings. The guild's vice leader seems to be the center of attention, to the point where he threatens to take the successor's position that would be Jonah's. Hajin questions if that's his main goal, to attend the after-party and acquire information. Annoyed that he keeps beating around the bush, Jonah asks about his intentions. Surprisingly, Hajin offers her the deal of a lifetime, willing to give her the weakness of the monster tyrant. His sudden offer takes her by surprise and bewilders her. Hajin considers it a necessary move on his part, as Jonah must prove to her guild that she is truly committed to its affairs and capable of leading it. This whole power struggle is a classic Manhwa trope. Hajin explains that there is a small blue mark hidden on the monster's heel and that prioritizing the attack there will help immobilize the creature momentarily. Furthermore, he adds that he's not generous enough to give this information away for free, as he seeks to get something in return from Jonah's guild, a prized weapon from its essential arsenal. The weapon he's interested in is the Desert Eagle. Jonah asks him if he has any proof of the mountain tyrant's weakness, as he should have, or notes or documentation to back up his research. He smiles and bluntly confesses that he has nothing. It's a ridiculous thing to admit and suddenly say, without any research backing. Jonah's face goes blank as she realizes he's probably lying to her and wasting her time. Furious, she leaves, but Hajin reminds her that she will regret not following his advice. If she thinks he's lying, there's the obvious problem that she might not take his words seriously, but at the same time, if Jonah actually believes him, he will have found a new ally. What's really funny is that Jonah goes outside and contacts one of her guild's managers. She sends a message for the raid team assigned to defeat the mountain tyrant. Stuttering in embarrassment, she tells them to aim for the blue mark on the creature's heel, as it might be its vital point. This confirms that Jonah used Hajin's advice on an impulse, even without proof. Hajin reflects that he may have made a smart investment, because Jonah is destined to one day become the Queen of Souls. Kim Hajin faces his worst villain yet, a loan payment bill. That's right, the stakes in this Manhwa just got real. Because this guy just received a bill for 300 million. The terror in his eyes is enough to tell you everything. This guy can't even fathom how much he owes. He has maxed out his student loans, a harsh reality in many a Manhwa. Immediately, this makes Hajin wonder what kind of miserable things Don did in his life to need all that money for himself. Well, his problems have just gotten even bigger. Hajin checks his bank account balance and realizes he has 3 million won left, a fraction of what he owes the institution for borrowing so much money. At this rate, the guy literally has no chance of returning to his real world. Instead, in this Manhwa, he'll be stuck here doing jobs until the end of his life just to pay off this massive debt. Hajin scratches his head and realizes he needs a job. In this world, there are two ways to make big money fast. The author explains that the first method is through stocks. The guy is trying to become the next Warren Buffett. But there's a catch. Ever since the appearance of towers and dungeons all over the world, they are now frequently sought after and conquered by guilds made up of heroes. The stocks of these guilds are now usually listed on the stock exchange, allowing them to be traded. Hajin has foreknowledge of all the guilds that are going to be listed, a common trope in this kind of manhwa, because he is the author and knows these things. The real problem is that he needs to get some capital to invest in the stocks, which means it won't be happening right away. The second option is the field, which Hajin believes is his only choice. Hunting in the field is a unique way to earn money. The field in question is known as a danger zone filled with monsters, a setting often explored in action manhwa, unlike the typical tower and dungeon events. The fields have a wide variety of monsters that you can then hunt to earn a fortune. It's kind of like completing hunting quests, and then selling the corpses of the monsters you've just hunted. However, the real obstacle in Hajin's case is himself. His personal stats are terrible, barely better than an average man's. So in his current state, his confidence is wavering, because he's not sure if he can venture into field hunting with his current skill set. The author reflects that normally, it would be quite a waste to use up his story points just to upgrade the training pistol he has, so he wants to find another way to upgrade his weapon or boost his stats. Suddenly, the door chimes and a voice calls his name, alerting him that he has received a package from Cadet Jonah. Recalling her name, Hajin wonders what this could mean, especially since Jonah is not the type of person who interacts with him. A classic manhwa setup for a pivotal moment. He opens the door to investigate and finds a small box. The cadet opens the box only to be shocked by what he sees, and just like that, the scene shifts to the Banju field zone in Gangwon province. Kim Hajin has arrived for his first field hunting event, traveling through the portals in a rather clean outfit. Hajin receives the receptionist's best wishes and internalizes how cadets are well respected no matter where they go. He leaves the portal station and heads into Gangwon province. This part of the province is generally considered a low-danger zone and quickly gained fame and tourism from many adventurers traveling from other countries, giving the province its new nickname, the International Metropolis. A man shouts out his request. He's looking for a teammate specializing in magic so he can enter Jack Mountain. There are many people like this guy, and Hajin calmly observes them as he passes by. He sees one of the employees confirming the defeat of 3 hobgoblins, a common sight in this Manhwa world. Seeing this, Hajin realizes it might be profitable for him to sell monster loot through an agency, as this would make the process smoother. He starts looking for an agent in the area, when suddenly a man calls out to him from behind. This man seems to have sensed Hajin's goal and asks if he wants to hunt monsters. The cadet confirms and learns that this nervous guy is actually an agent. He shows his business card to prove his identity. Hajin didn't expect him to be so eager, but suddenly the author reads the name of the agency on the business card, a name that readers of the original manhwa would instantly recognize. It's run by Park Soo-hyuk. This guy is the major character who will one day become Sujo's personal agent, which means that even though he's nervous, he definitely has the skills to recruit the best of the best. He'll eventually become the CEO of Korea's leading agency, and it's strange enough that Hajin has found him this early in the manhwa's story. Right now, he's inexperienced and new. Hajin takes a special interest in his agency and extends his hand, ready to be recruited by his agency. In his mind, Hajin knows this is just the beginning of the story, that many characters have yet to reveal their full potential and will blossom into the characters they are meant to be. Basically, he's investing in people right now, forming early connections. A sudden thought comes to his mind. Given that this guy is supposed to be the agent of Sujo in the future, Hajin wonders if it's really the right thing to trust him in this situation. A while later, as they head to the monster zone, Hajin asks if the agent is doing okay on his own. Then we see this guy is completely exhausted, as if he's never done so much cardio in his life as they approach the danger zone. The agent detects several tracks from hot goblins. Hot goblins aren't the toughest to beat, and a couple of them can drop almost 400,000, so it's a good deal according to the agent. However, that kind of money still isn't enough. Hajin reflects that just one of his mana bullets costs a staggering 200,000, a price that makes this manhwa feel very high stakes, so he's hoping to earn more than just by taking down a bunch of goblins. Setting his sights on a target, Hajin points to a boar monster just below the cliff and asks if hunting it would be okay. The agent immediately gets worried, as this is a steel boar, a monster known for being immune to bullets, since they are not strong or sharp enough to penetrate its hide. Hajin doesn't take his words seriously and happily moves forward without a care. In response, the agent is literally left speechless, as from his point of view this is like signing his own death warrant. This is a classic manhwa setup for a big reveal. The guy is literally saying his gun can take down anyone. Most importantly, there's a reason he's so confident. Hajin just received a new gift from Jonah in exchange for the valuable information he traded. And lo and behold, this man pulls out the Desert Eagle in all its glory. This beautiful, lethal weapon is even more souped up, with a new feature he added by spending some extra story points in the process. The agent is against provoking the boar and warns our guy to be careful, but Hajin is pretty bold and doesn't care. He locks onto the target and fires a single explosive shot. That one shot literally cuts through the monster like a precise laser beam, a scene worthy of a top-tier manhwa, taking it down instantly. The kill shot stuns the agent, who is left in a state of disbelief. The system informs him about the special feature Hajin added. Every time he scores a kill with his weapon, the amplification of its destructive power doubles. Hajin is quite pleased with what he accomplished with his new weapon, a classic manhwa power-up. As well as his marksmanship skills, the agent is left in awe. The guy doesn't have much time to accept the compliment and simply aims at his next victim before unleashing another powerful shot. The agent asks him what he killed this time. Hajin explains that he saw a black pelican in the distance and decided to shoot it down. The agent finds it amazing that he can see so far with such precision, to the point of being able to shoot things out of the air. Hajin confidently confirms his skills, playfully commenting that he possesses eagle eyes, then tells the agent he will go down the cliff, take care of the monsters. The agent quickly runs after him with the downed black pelican and the steel boar, also taken down. They have acquired 2 heavy monsters, one after another. Hajin asks if he is able to transport them safely. Suke explains that it would be quite convenient to pay the dispatch fee and call the logistics team. He even calculates the budget for the amount they will receive after taxes. Hajin is simultaneously impressed by his sharp attention to detail, which will soon become the reason for the agent's national fame. He confidently shakes Hajin's hand, and they both look forward to working together, extending their partnership into the future. The agent recalls that Hajin mentioned it was his first time hunting in the field. From that he wants to know how the boy is going to spend the money once he receives it, like a true businessman. Hajin says he's going to buy stocks, a move straight out of a regression manhwa, completely shattering the man's expectations with his answer. The fledgling guild called the Load Horse Masters was originally founded by a demonic, human or monster. In the original manhwa story, they play an important role. Sitting in front of his laptop in his room, Hajin reflects that the guild is not what he should be worried about, but rather the upcoming dungeon raid in the main manhwa plot. The Load Horse Masters Guild in the Devil's Shelter dungeon. Right after this raid, the stock prices of this guild soar, rising by almost 30%, which is why he is happily investing his money, buying their shares early so he can reap the benefits of the boom later. It's the easiest and most efficient way to make money in this manhwa world, after all. Thanks to his foresight about the future, he spends 3 million. When he completes the purchase, he wonders if there is any other place where he can find information about stocks. Hajin couldn't find out much on the internet forums, so he thinks that a shady website like Violet Mist might be of some use. As he thinks about it, Hajin remembers something. He remembers the mass syndicate that was responsible for playing the role of the main villains in the second half of the manhwa. As their name suggests, they are a criminal organization without much information about their members. However, since he is the author of this manhwa's source novel, he knows their exact identities, as well as their hideout. Hajin believes he might be the only one in the world who knows about them. Hajin wonders if he can strengthen his connection with the leader of the masked syndicate, which would somehow help him defeat Shihin Jun one day when he is resurrected as a demonic human, as he weighs his options. Hajin believes there should be a vacancy in the organization, which would give him an opportunity to act. While he conducts his search, the laptop screen suddenly goes dark, surprising Kim Hajin, who brings his worried face closer. This is a terrible thing to have happened to him, as the laptop was his only way to return to his previous world. Losing it would set him back enormously. But luckily it turned back on, relieving him to some extent. A whole month has passed since he arrived in this world, and the laptop is suddenly getting an update, a strange event for this kind of manhwa. He was hit with a Microsoft update and almost broke down, thinking he would lose his job. Anyway, let's cut to another scene in a restaurant. A couple is sitting alone, attracting people's attention. It's the disinterested Jonghak and the charmed Jonah. Jonghak starts the conversation by expressing his annoyance. He doesn't want to participate in polite and noble gatherings like this. Jonah scoffs at him and thinks he's only gaining benefits by participating in this meeting, after all. He's talking to someone who is destined to lead society one day. She asks him about his grades, and learns that he's doing more or less well. Jonah teases him for not aiming for first place. But the thing is, Jonghak believes his grades are fine precisely because he's in second place. The guy is winning, but he has very high standards for himself. Interrupting their meeting is an unexpected guest, the stunning Non, Jonghak's crush. This guy literally jumps out of his chair and breaks character just to get her attention. Seeing him jump up with such interest displeases Jonah, since she likes him a lot. Jonghak asks Non if she's okay. Non expresses that she's fine, but as they talk, Jonah gets irritated at being ignored. Suddenly, Non mentions the name Kim Hajin, which catches Jonah's attention. Jonah turns to Non and asks about him. The girl explains that during the demonic human incident at the National Museum, there were only 3 cadets, and one of them turned out to be Aji. The demonic human defeated them and crushed both Suho and Non, so much so that they couldn't defeat it, until a man suddenly intervened. In a classic manhwa moment, Kim Hajin annihilated the monster's hand with his shot, and Non was there to witness this impossible event. She couldn't believe how he had managed it with a training pistol, which led her to wonder what his true motives were. Jonah is pensive as the plot of this manhwa thickens. As Non decides to ask more about him, she wants to know what Jonah thinks about the guy, especially because they were partners in their first training. The girl hesitates before answering. It turns out she did a background check on Kim Hajin due to her own suspicions. She discovered that he was just an orphan who joined the cube and owed an impressive sum of 300 million, but aside from that basic information, it's not like she knew anything weird about him. What's more, she can't understand how he came to know the vital point of the Highlanders, something that not even the best researchers or analysts knew at the time. This secret knowledge is a key mystery in the manhwa, but he was very stubborn and refused to give details. That's why she wanted to investigate him, because Jonah believes he will one day be an asset, useful to the guild. Jonah expresses that at first she thought he was just an ordinary person, a common misjudgment in this manhwa. She gathers her thoughts and reasons that his attacks in the training round weren't nearly strong enough to take down a monster's entire arm that quickly. So, based on that information, she deduces that he must be hiding a secret power, a staple of action manhwa, hidden from others. Noun whispers an interesting suggestion that Kim Hajin might actually be a fishman, a wild theory even for a fantasy manhwa. This suggestion comes from her and baffles both Jonghak and Jonah. Even the purple-haired brat is having a hard time to believe that one monster would kill another monster that easily. Noun doesn't know what it is, but she feels something strange about Kim Hajin, a common feeling for side characters in a manhwa. Speaking of which, Hajin's laptop is acting weirdly, and it's close to reaching a 100% update. Suddenly, he feels a warm sensation emerging from his wrist. The pain intensifies and bloodstains start appearing on his sleeve. Hajin panics as his wrist burns with pain. The latest update is creating a stigma that represents the creator's authority, a classic power-up in this type of manhwa. Every time his influence increases and the story point level evolves, his mark will also evolve. The magic contained within the mark can be detached when needed, and, after being used once, it will recharge in 24 hours. Hajin experiences headaches and pains throughout his body. It's as if information is flooding his brain and he has no way to resist it. Back at the restaurant, Yuno slams his palm on the table, irritated to see Noun upset over Hajin's recent actions. Meanwhile, Hajin can barely stay on his feet and collapses to the ground, a dramatic moment for our manhwa protagonist. Getting back to Noun, she can't help but remember those cruel words spoken by Kim Hajin. Noun confirms that she really dislikes him. Hajin lies unconscious, his body giving out, and we see the stigma mark he received from the last update. The laptop receives a sudden notification for him. A new skill has been added to his gift of observation and reading, enhancing its effects. Now, let's go to the Association Tower in Seoul. You'll see that right after the incident at the National Museum, Sujo, Nan, and Hajin were involved in the fight, and received certificates of recognition for their amazing feat. Their efforts were recognized for their service to the city. Kim Hajin's wrist is still throbbing with pain from what happened yesterday. It's better now, but the pain is noticeable. Besides, he still hasn't managed to understand its purpose. Kim Hajin has the unfortunate encounter of sitting next to Nan, who is furious with him and tells him to shut up, even when he didn't say a single word. Nan is so annoyed by his mere existence that she can't stand him next to her. Hajin, curiously, asks if she's already forgotten something he did, then reminds her that on that very same day, he also saved her damn life with his powers. Nan gets a bit frustrated hearing this from him, but it's not like he isn't telling the truth. She explodes at him in classic manhwa fashion, causing Sujo to intervene to stop their argument. They even offer to let her change seats to help her, but the stubborn girl doesn't want to do that either. After a long discussion, she manages to switch seats with Sujo, who sits next to Hajin and gets ready to talk. He thanks Kim Hajin for saving their lives, something our boy clearly didn't expect them to admit. Sujo confirms that without his intervention, they would have lost that fight, so he became their savior and earned their gratitude, pushing the manhwa's plot forward. But our boy is cool about it, thinking they would have won anyway, even if he hadn't intervened. If Hajin hadn't been there to save them, it's likely Sujo would have pulled out his plot armor and evolved to a higher level of power just to defeat the threat, a true manhwa protagonist power-up. After all, that's the literal point of protagonists in a story. Whenever they face danger, they always rise up and become stronger. The scene shifts to the auditorium where one of the heroes most prominent in the entire world is making his entrance. With his long hair and a remarkable outfit full of dragons, the man walks with a confident yet disinterested gait, commenting on the uselessness of his current task. This man is Yushuk, a high-level hero ranked 37th in the association. With his commanding presence, the entire audience falls silent. Everyone can feel the powerful aura emanating from him, a classic manhwa power display. This marks the beginning of the awards ceremony where Nan, Sujo, and our boy Hajin are waiting. The awardees are called up to the stage. These 3 cadets were selected for their honorable act in service to the city. This particular manhwa is great at highlighting such moments. The awards are presented by Seok, one of the most notable heroes in the association, all to commend the cadets for their brilliant performance in exterminating a demonic threat and saving the lives of innocent people in the city. First, Seok addresses Sujo and hands him the award, acknowledging Sujo's promising powers, and comments that he is a talent worth recruiting. Sujo receives the honorable certificate just as Seok makes him a crazy offer. He wants the boy to forget completely about the association and start working for him as a hunter for the Forsaken Plains Guild. He reminds Sujo that the role of a hero is simple and boring, with a ton of responsibility that Seok himself doesn't value. However, the confident boy rejects his offer, content with his decision to become a hero despite those words. It's a classic manhwa protagonist move. Seok feels as if the fun has been taken away and moves on to the next cadet. In Seok's presence, Noun seems somewhat flustered because he appears to recognize her. It turns out this guy is actually her master. Well, that's what Noun would like to believe, because in reality, Seok doesn't consider her a student at all. Her father simply begged him to train her, and that's how they got to this point. His blunt but honest truth kills her enthusiasm and makes our boy happy, because she deserves to be humbled a little. And then comes the last cadet. Suho seems to take a special interest in Hajin right away, because he doesn't recognize this ordinary-looking kid at all. The first question he asks him is who he is, because he looks so insignificant and plain. Hajin describes the situation as being like indifference. It's as if his presence is completely ignored, a classic setup for an underdog manhwa protagonist, because Suho pays him no mind, just like the others. The awards ceremony concluded just like that, as boring as it sounds. Cadet Nan is the first student asked about her thoughts after receiving her award. Well, after the ceremony, our boy is the happiest he's ever been. He just received a 15 million prize for monster extermination, which is great, because he's going to need everything he's got to cover that 300 million debt. He sits alone and decides how he'll invest the rest of the money. His interest is in buying more guild shares. Meanwhile, he's looking forward to inspecting the new features his laptop received right after the painful update, a power-up straight out of a system manhwa. Upon opening his laptop, he sees a message notifying him about the updated features. The first is the stigma mark he received, the second is internet activation, and the last one is truth being added to his observation and reading skill. The stigma mark. It's related to what happened to his left arm, but there's almost no description about it. It just tells him he can use magic whenever he needs to. Although it says Hajin is having a hard time activating his ability, just as he thinks about activation, the mark forms an emblem indicating that it's about to activate. Afraid that something might burst, Hajin prefers to take this risk in his room where no one else can see him. It would be problematic if someone saw him, after all. The second update is about activating the internet. Hajin hovers the cursor over the button and clicks it after a short pause. The screen redirects him to a bunch of different websites. He's not just getting free access to normal websites, but he's also accessing restricted sites for free. Of all the websites he sees, the most important one is Violet Mist, and it has everything he needs. It's the most famous of all the membership sites in this manhwa world, and serves as a place to exchange critical information, weapons, bounties, requests, and much more. Only a few heroes don't use this site, which is why the government has decided to turn a blind eye to the underground trade. There's an insane access fee that must be paid just to get into this website. In our guy's case, all he needs to do is spend 200 of his precious story points. He makes the purchase to create his account for the time being. And just as he's thinking about connecting to a particular page, someone calls out to him. It's the beautiful Suho, and the vice captain has caught him. She knows that Hajin is aware of her identity, and also recalls how he was the only person who disappeared from the ceremony a little while ago. She came here specifically to give him her guild's card, the Holy Grace of God. This is no ordinary deal, as even Hajin believes that getting this card is a huge accomplishment. Suho has a lot of important questions to ask him, so she sits down and asks if he's willing to answer them. Of course, Hajin already suspects that she's interested in potentially recruiting him, so he sits as she asks if he's prepared to help with her questions. In this manhwa, Suho normally appears to be the kindest person when she's portrayed in the media, but in reality, she has a different side. Even the best of the best talents are treated with indifference when it comes to her. She is only interested in the best of the best and deals in absolutes, leaving behind those who are unnecessary and irrelevant. That's the true personality of the guild's vice leader, Suho. Forming a connection with her at this stage will be key to Hajin's success in the future events to come, which is why, before she can even speak, our guy simply cuts her off and coldly tells her he has nothing new to say. After this rejection, Suho does her best to clear things up. She wants to tell him that she's the one showing a keen interest in him and bluntly reminds him that she's the vice leader of the most important guild in Korea. Hajin seems to acknowledge her rank, but dismisses it because he knows she came for personal reasons. He knows for a fact that Suho is only here because she saw the footage of him using the light attribute shot. It's not that she's genuinely interested in recruiting him right now. Instead, in a classic manhwa trope, she just wants to satisfy her curiosity with a bunch of questions, which is why this guy is playing hard to make it seem like he has everything under control. This way, he'll manipulate her emotions and eventually earn her real interest, instead of the fleeting curiosity she has now. The man makes a strategic move and declares he's leaving immediately, leaving Zunga completely stunned. Revisiting his stigma ability, more information is provided about its use when his total story points exceed a threshold. The attention score will increase by 1 level, and another stroke will be added to his mark. It also makes it clear that Hajin can activate his power whenever he wishes, and after using it once, it will recharge over a 24-hour period. To test his new skill, Hajin focuses on forming a dagger using his magic. Suddenly, the mark forms a mythical blade for him out of thin air. The dagger is truly authentic, as Hajin swings it and feels it's ready for use at that very moment. The interesting thing about magic in this manhwa is that it's an ability influenced by the innate talent and knowledge of the user. Since Hajin appeared in this world without any explanation of his past, he naturally assumed that he wouldn't be able to handle magic. But he's happy to have found a way to use magic in his own way, through the powers of the stigma. The last thing he wants to test is the Tome of Truth, which is supposed to enhance his pre-existing observation and reading skills. Hajin thinks for a moment and decides to speak the name of the ability. The ability activates his stigma once more, materializing a book that contains the truth. The book's mystical energy allows Hajin to answer any question, as long as it's within the scope of his magic. Now, how crazy is that for a manhwa protagonist? Even the narrator stops for a second to digest what he just read, to see if it's joking or not. Hajin asks about his height. It turns out our boy is a short king, coming in at 174 centimeters or just over 5 feet and 8 inches in freedom units. Using the Tome of Truth consumes 1 story point per question as a cost. Suddenly, Hajin's smartwatch starts beeping frantically, indicating a sudden emergency alert from the school. There's a group message from someone asking for a student's location. Seeing this red emergency notification, our boy wonders what it's all about. He believes he might have triggered the second major event that is supposed to occur in the main plot of this manhwa, the serial disappearances of the cadets at the academy. This arc will involve the disappearance of 6 cadets out of thin air. The culprit responsible for this act is meticulous in covering their tracks and leaves no trace behind. The investigations prove futile, causing the number of disappearances to keep rising, as if everyone were trapped in a never-ending game. Hajin notes that this arc is important because the perpetrator's ultimate target is meant to be none other than Yuyona. Now, even Hajin knows that things would be problematic for him if the co-author interfered with this part of the story and made some changes, as they could threaten to eliminate one of the main characters, just like what happened in the museum incident. Our boy considers taking control of the situation to catch the criminal, but he thinks that even that will be useless, as his interference would unnecessarily alter the course of the manhwa forever. The only thing he can do for now is just wait and see how the story unfolds. The scene shifts to the training center the next day. Sujin is rehydrating with some water when one of his friends points to the scene just ahead as Hajin tries to work out and improve his physical strength. A group of annoying bullies approaches to mock him and interrupt his training, calling him a loser for not being able to lift a simple weight, despite being enrolled in a prestigious institution. They even suspect he must have bribed his way in. Sujo tries to help him, since he has a strong sense of justice, but his friend grabs him and pulls him away. Sujo can't believe that the class representative, Yoongun, isn't doing anything to stop those guys, but Jungin explains that it's obvious from the delinquents that Hajin has somehow gotten on John Hao's bad side, a dangerous position in this manhwa, so any involvement would also label Sujo as a target. There's also a possibility that these guys are faking it to test his reaction. Sujo can't believe what he's hearing, but Jungin believes a guy who broke the demonic human's arm couldn't be afraid to face a bunch of amateurs by himself. He opines that Hajin is deliberately hiding his true strength, but this popular manhwa theory is quickly proven ridiculous. Because our boy can't for the life of him lift that barbell, he's struggling here before giving up. Even the losers think he's just pathetic. Jungin starts to believe that maybe luck was just on his side, this phony switch sides so fast. Anyway, Sujo ignores him and runs to save Hajin. The other cadets soon realize a fight is about to break out, and Non is spying as well. Once again, their instructor comes out roaring like an angry father. He is upset because they are making a mockery of their training session. The instructor tells the students to gather, so their test scores will be revealed. The sheet will be posted on the wall so everyone can see the results. In groups, the cadets approach to see the board, and they realize that many of them were wiped out on the test. On that same test, in a classic manhwa twist, only one student's name is at the top, none other than Kim Hajin, the same annoying guy, who couldn't even lift a simple barbell earlier. Rachel and John Hao take second and third place, respectively. That is, Hajin isn't surprised by this result, as he practically knows everything about the manhwa story that he himself wrote. Upon seeing his result, an object from a girl falls to the ground. It's Rachel, and she's completely speechless at what she sees. She is the British princess who placed third in admissions. There's only one notable detail about this girl's character, and it's the fact that she has never placed second on any written exam, no matter what. So the fact that she came in second has left her breathless. She looks at him as if she's seen a ghost of some kind. Hajin is also stunned, not knowing what to say. Let's explore what happened when Rachel was accepted into Cube Academy, a pivotal event in this manhwa. With her brilliant result, her attendants were all worried for her, thinking she might be participating in being alongside one of the world's top hero candidates very soon. Besides, she would have no one to relate to. since everyone in her class would be Korean. Rachel was fine with that. She never felt anxiety and simply wanted to live up to the expectations of others for the sake of the royal family. But today, she has felt a feeling of terror, defeat, and disappointment like never before. She feels she has failed her countrymen with her performance. The professor reviews Hajin's notes in class, specifically pointing out the boy's brilliance in writing a new perspective on phenomenological analysis, even giving him a special mention to be followed like an academic weapon. Now Rachel knows that the topic of phenomenology isn't just an easy subject to master. She doesn't even think it's possible to close the gap between her and Hajin before the midterms arrive. This distant and lost boy, Kim Hajin, is playing her for a fool, just like a classic manhwa protagonist, while he doesn't even pay attention in his classes, burning with inspiration and a painful desire to know how Rachel studies. She starts to become more interested in him. At the information office, our boy is looking into a bunch of his questions. He has finally acquired the tea of truth to solve all his problems, so it should help him. Thanks to this brilliant new skill, he can learn about anything in this world, or any knowledge gap he has. A very useful ability for a manhwa hero, in exchange for spending just a bunch of his story points, especially since he has nothing going for him right now and wouldn't really make a profit. Hajin hopes things will get better. He's eventually going to complete the agent registration, and from there he wants to use some of his precious story points to take care of the rest. Let's talk about the second major event that will happen in this manhwa's story. Right after it occurs, the institution's position as a place of safety and authority is called into question by the people, no longer considered a safe zone. The thing is, even with his current powers, Hajin believes he's too weak to face a demon by himself, a classic struggle for any manhwa main character. However, he's been getting a ton of story points after John House got annoyed with him and sent his little thugs, which is turning out in his favor and helping the boy out. Hajin wants to spend some of the points to ensure his survival against what's to come in the future. The first area of interest is increasing the buffs on his weapon. Since he has the Desert Eagle pistol with him, he wants to add a convertible function that allows it to transform into a sniper rifle. Now, I don't know about you, but a pistol that transforms into a sniper rifle sounds awesome, a concept straight out of a cool manhwa, while Hajin wonders if he's going a bit overboard with this feature. Finally, he makes the decision to spend 250 story points for the added function. At that moment, his weapon warps and takes the form of a beautiful golden sniper rifle, reflecting its change. Even Hajin is impressed by the ability, but he thinks it's too flashy for a weapon and will attract too much attention, so he returns it to its pistol state for now. Next, his focus is on creating a technique to help him. He has 3 slots to work with. What differentiates supernatural and magic-based powers, called skills, from techniques, is that they're considered perfected physical abilities that are acquired rather than given, a common power system in this kind of manhwa. Arguably, the most important skill for the survival of ranged weapon users is to prioritize their positioning for any successful elimination. So right now, the technique Hajin hopes to acquire is related to getting into the ideal position for evasion. To avoid any future mishaps, he audits the technique skills on his laptop. Finally, the properties of the technique are there for him to use. It's a skill he decided to name parkour, and it helps him become an agile monster across the entire field. This will ensure he keeps moving and doesn't get stuck in one place, exposing his position. For this purpose, 350 points have been consumed, but strangely our boy doesn't seem to feel anything different in his body. At least he's confident that he has made some changes, even if he can't feel it. Suddenly, his smartwatch receives a notification. It's a group message, and this time people are looking for Sunan, the girl who has become the second victim of the perpetrator inside the institution. He explains that the students who disappeared before Jonah were actually coldly murdered by the culprit. A dark turn for this manhwa. This means that the moment they disappear, they are as good as dead. Since he is the author and knows about this dangerous and mysterious villain acting from the shadows, a detail from the original manhwa, and also knows the people who will be involved in the disappearance. The scene shifts to the outdoor training ground beneath the cube's facilities. The instructor makes the announcement to every cadet and explains that they are going to be part of a special practical training session. The cave they see right ahead is actually called an artificial dungeon and was created thanks to the wonders of techno-magic, a staple in many manhwa. This place is inhabited by illusions of real monsters, making it the best possible training to prepare the cadets to fight real monsters in the future. It's for this reason that the cadets in this manhwa will participate in a mission-simulated dungeon raid today. However, the instructor intensely reminds them that they shouldn't take the exercise lightly just because it's training, as in this manhwa, it could cost them dearly. The thing about the artificial dungeon is that it's immense in size, so the two groups called Veritas and Cultural will work together to clear it effectively. One team from each unit will merge to form a raid party that will attack the dungeon. The instructor tells them to form their own teams from now on. There's endless chatter among the students trying to connect and communicate to form teams. Among them is Team 8, which consists of our boy Hajin and the rest of his allies like Jonah, Yuki, and Osan from the cultural unit. There's also Hayden, King, Yu Suhoon, and Jinza, making a team of 8 cadets in total. Inside the artificial dungeon, many terrifying traps are waiting for them. Some of these traps were deliberately planted by demons, which is at least what Hajin suspects. To counter the possibility of facing demonic humans, he has already prepared a number of special bullets for them beforehand. But even at this level, Hajin is confident in himself, yet wonders if he will survive this practical training event. Suddenly, the system starts issuing a warning, informing him about the discrepancy caused in the manhwa's story. This is problematic for the author, especially since he won't know what those changes are. The worst part is that 3 aspects of the story have been altered in a single event, so it's definitely alerting Hajin, who doesn't know what's happening or who is causing such disturbances. As the teams gather, Hajin's biggest concern is that he doesn't know about the changes. While he's completely lost in thought, Kim Sujo's teammate, Yuna from the cultural unit, mocks him for being a fool and not paying attention to the instructor. The system informs him about Yuna's temperament, which is rising just as Yuna meets Jaden from the cultural team, but she doesn't share the boy's enthusiasm and has a completely indifferent attitude on her face. The system reports that Jaden's growth potential has also increased due to this interaction. Then, finally, Non interacts with a specific cadet she has seen around in the home club. The cadet introduces himself as Sven Daning, with a beautiful pair of blue eyes and a charming smile. He is paired with her. But for some reason his mental breakdown only worsens, which also means he is highly susceptible to becoming a demonic puppet during the raid. Hajin is completely bewildered to hear about these changes in the manhwa's story appearing out of nowhere, and is deeply worried, as they are going to significantly impact the manhwa's plot. Hajin fixes his attention on the 2 characters he has to watch closely. The first of them is Jaden from Team 8, as he is supposed to be a delinquent-type character with a thug's personality, a common trope in this kind of manhwa. Although he possesses the qualities of a good cadet, what really bothers Hajin are the growth potential points that he's receiving out of nowhere. Jaden politely introduces himself to the rest of his team, composed of Hajin, Sujo, and Yuna. On Yuna's side, she does the same, but she tends to misremember our guy's name, which causes him annoyance. It's funny, because I think she called him Leah Jin just to mess with him. Returning to his thoughts, Hajin focuses on what he must do regarding his second person of interest. It's Sven. This guy is on a government scholarship, a classic setup in an academy manhwa, as he's considered an elite hero candidate from Germany. There's just one detail to point out about this guy, and it's the fact that he's in love with Non. Is it just me? Or is everyone in love with Non? Someone should check if she made a contract with the charm demon. Anyway, just like the rest of the international students within the institution, Sven came with the purpose of achieving glory and reaching the highest peaks of success, but that remains an unfulfilled dream for him, especially when there are talents like Non, Sujo, and even Yuna in the picture as the main characters of this manhwa. Seeing their monstrous and brilliant skills, Sven became lost and felt mentally torn apart. He had never felt true inferiority or a humiliating defeat before coming to the institution. His insecurities got the better of him, and because of that, in his mad pursuit of power, Sven sells his soul in exchange for ultimate strength. Those are the details the author is confident about from the original manhwa. The real problem is that his transformation will happen during the raid. It has moved up in the manhwa's timeline, and although he hopes it won't have much of an impact, Hajin is still worried. His thoughts are interrupted by Jaden's sudden greeting, who squeezes his shoulder and reminds him not to get lost in thought. Hajin quickly pulls his arm away from Jaden. He's being shunned so quickly, and hearing those words makes him think the rumors about him must be true. Hajin internalizes that his reputation is at an all-time low right now. One particular rumor has gained traction in the Orbis unit, a common start for any manhwa protagonist, causing many people to look at him with distrust. The rumors say he's using his status as a cadet to intimidate other people, but it's one of those rumors fabricated out of thin air to speak ill of someone. It's pretty clear who is behind these rumors, as Hajin knows they are definitely related to John Howie and his lackey. Seeing his so-called friends, Hajin feels a bit annoyed because Oski and Osan aren't even stepping in to help him, despite being part of his team. Anyway, the order of the teams is decided, and they will start entering, beginning with Team 1. Meanwhile, Hayden tries to strike up a conversation with Jonah in an attempt to impress her. He keeps talking about how their teams are an overpowered mix. At that moment, they even mock Hajin for being a burden, which is funny. It seems like everyone who hates him gathered on a single team and their victim is poor Hajin, a classic manhwa setup. Finally, The time comes for Team 8 to enter the dungeon. They arrive at the artificial cave in all its splendor. They walk together and explore the dungeon, with Hayden being the most confident one leading the way. Suddenly, they find a place with many paths. A curious Jonah wonders which will be the most effective path to take. Hayden explains that they always have Jin Yu as a ranged weapon user to rely on. Jin breaks his silence and suggests exploring route number 6. Suddenly, his interruption greatly annoys Hayden, but curiously, Jonah seems to trust his instinct and actually accepts his suggestion. Her sudden approval surprises Hajin, and although she calls him useless in front of the group, she can't help but admit he has a good eye. Hajin is a little annoyed that she has to drag his name through the mud just to give him a compliment, but he's fine with it as long as they can find Nan on the same path. The thing about Esben is that he could actually end up making a pact with the demon lurking inside the cave. That's why the burden falls on Nan, and she's going to have a difficult task, dealing with him alone. If she falls now, the rest of the Manhwa story will fall apart, as her character is crucial to advancing the plot. She is an invaluable piece that cannot be lost. They enter through path 6, but Hayden is still jealous and calls Hajin an attention seeker. Our boy doesn't care about his insults, and simply chooses to focus on the monsters ahead, like a true Manhwa protagonist. The rest of the cadets can't see anything in the darkness, but Hajin seems to be fine, spotting a salamander in the distance. He also thinks it might be some kind of dungeon switch, a classic Manhwa trope, which could reveal some properties about itself. Worried, Jin Yu thinks he should try shooting an arrow of light and see what happens. With Jonah's approval, he prepares and shoots it, creating a path of light straight ahead to everyone's surprise. Sure enough, there's a salamander monster ahead. Hayden is surprised, while Jonah alerts everyone to get into a combat stance and take it down. Hajin, on the other hand, anticipates something before making his move. Jonah pulls out her whip, her signature weapon, ready for some classic Manhwa action, and faces the battle head-on. She unleashes her powerful whip aimed at the beast, interrupting its charged attack from its mouth. Oski and the other melee fighters rush in to crush the monster with their powerful attacks. Since it's just a hologram, they defeat it easily, taking little to no damage in the fight. Hajin hears the sound of a rumble, a common setup in this kind of manhwa, and realizes the dungeon is transforming after the monster's defeat. The electrical charge coming from her whip is noticed by Hajin, who is impressed that she has already awakened her pre-awakening power. Just as they are about to move, Hajin trips on a stone and falls on top of Jonah from behind. At the same time, a sharp projectile whizzes past them, and would have hit its mark if he hadn't tripped just now. They both crash to the ground. Hajin's face is drenched in sweat, because he knows he's a dead man now. Jonah tries to ignore his act and pushes him away for a moment, but then she gets enraged and wants to punch him. As she readies herself to hit him, the rest of their teammates point to the arrow that almost killed them a moment ago. It's at that moment Hajin realizes that when they tripped, they actually dodged a lethal poison arrow, a classic manhwa trope. The scene shifts to Esben, who has been wounded by one of those arrows and is begging Naum to leave him behind. Carrying his heavy body, Naum yells at him to shut up. She still can't believe what happened earlier. An arrow appeared out of nowhere and hit Esben in the back. She couldn't believe it was part of their training, so she decided to run, especially since this is an artificial dungeon where situations like that shouldn't happen. Now, let's check out the giant demon she's trying to escape from. This lava golem is like a mini Godzilla chasing after Naum, a monster straight out of a nightmare manhwa. It's no wonder she's so annoyed with Esben for talking while he's injured. The training inside the artificial cave continues for the cadets. They are busy fighting fire salamanders that shoot beams from their mouths. Hajin's team is defending very well against them, especially the support unit that defends and counterattacks with long-range weapons. The same goes for Hajin and Jonah, who are clearing the chaos with ease. Hayden is having fun slicing up the monsters on his own. This non-stop fight seems to be an easy victory for our heroes, as you'd expect in the early stages of a manhwa. They haven't faced a monster that's really difficult so far, as they are nothing but cannon fodder. Aside from the poison arrow, they don't think they've encountered any traps they need to watch out for, so they keep moving forward and exploring deeper. But something isn't right about the poison arrow, and Hajin doesn't like it. He even received a system notification about it. He can't believe these fools still think the arrow is just part of the training, and not a real threat, a critical mistake in any action manhwa. Hajin is lost in thought when, suddenly, a strong, terrifying presence appears from behind, startling him. A salamander fully charged is preparing its devastating fire beam, ready to launch it at any moment. Hajin is completely shocked that one of the salamanders survived and wasn't dead, after they made sure it was defeated. The massive fire beam is unleashed in their path with Jonah and the others standing defenseless. This single attack could annihilate them all, which is why Hajin intervenes in the battle with his stigma magic, a power often seen in fantasy manhwa, releasing his one-time use ability to instantly cast a water barrier. The stigma magic unleashes the water barrier, protecting them from the furious beam. The beam is powerful, but it eventually fizzles out against the defensive properties of the water barrier, enveloping his team and ending its attack. The salamander falls, as that was its last resort, but what Hajin just did has stunned his teammates. Uki and Osun don't know what they just saw, nor could they believe the salamander's attack was so powerful and part of the training. It's a real fire breath at full strength, and although it didn't fully connect with the heroes, it was dangerous. Hayden is the only one furious about the incident, and immediately grabs Hajin for hiding his water attribute powers, especially since they needed them a while ago. Hajin tries to stay calm and explains that he's just using an effect from a magic item, but Jade isn't buying his excuse. Jonah steps in to break it up. What worries them is the fact that they faced a real monster in an artificial dungeon. Jonah reasons that the place should simulate a traditional or normal dungeon, which means it's likely that one of the salamanders has evolved somehow or that something else caused its appearance. She doesn't want to focus on the details for now, because she's sure that they will get points for defeating a real monster. Later, Jonah leads the group and acts as if she doesn't really care about what happened, but in her thoughts, she's much more confident that Hajin is lying about the magic item excuse. The fact that he couldn't afford the Desert Eagle is proof enough that he couldn't just get a magic item out of nowhere. Besides, it's specifically a water attribute item. And while Jonghak and Sujo seem like candidates to get something like that, a guy like Hajin is out of the question. Jonah connects the strange coincidences involving Hajin so far, like the vital point of the mountain tyrant, and the fact that he's able to use magic. She can't understand why he's going through so much trouble to hide his powers, which reminds her of Nan's initial assumption that he's probably a fish human. Due to her bewildered thoughts and her inability to trust Hajin, Jonah has been keeping a close eye on him. Let's get back to our girl, Nan, and see how she faces her monster. The magma megalith is a real threat, an intermediate-grade monster that seems unstoppable, the kind of foe you'd see in a boss raid manhwa. They think it's a dungeon boss, and even wonder if it's possible to face a monstrosity like that, especially with a normal team. Their plan is to join forces with the other teams and make a joint attack. There's also the concern that Sven's condition is fragile. Nan is baffled by the poison arrow that appeared out of nowhere, starting to believe that this dungeon is too challenging for cadet-level training. This entire situation feels more dangerous than any training arc in typical manhwa. Sven's condition seems to be worse than everyone thinks, and he feels like a burden to the group for letting everyone down, and with this, his mental state worsens. He's having troubled thoughts and starts to question his abilities. It torments him from the inside, a classic character struggle in this manhwa, until a voice decides to take advantage of his weakened state. The voice asks him if he's looking for strength, especially after so much suffering during this time. This voice promises to give him exactly what he wants, offering him the strength of his dreams in exchange for giving up everything else. Faced with this offer, and in his pitiful state, Sven gladly accepts the proposal without a second thought, a dark turning point for his character in this manhwa. Just as he accepts the offer, the demonic being captures his soul in its trap, causing him dizzying pain. He screams in agony as his body succumbs to the pain. Naeum rushes to him and calls for the attention of her teammates, but all her shouting has attracted the old and ugly Goliath to that location. The monster looks at them with a casual greeting before destroying the place with its lava. The monster swings its massive fist to smash the structures, and the cadets are probably running like S-rank athletes because they're so scared that the damn fist will crush them if they don't run fast enough. The monster wrecks the place, sending some cadets flying in a scene straight out of an action manhwa, leaving them trapped with practically no way out. Even Nan has run into a wall while carrying Esben, and can't see an exit. Before she can catch her breath, the terrifying creature appears with its creepy eyes. The girl can't believe what they're facing, and is now convinced this is not a drill. Facing the monster's fury, Nan is terrified, admitting they might die in a place like this, an artificial dungeon. The monster prepares to unleash its attack, when a mana bullet appears out of nowhere, a classic manhwa save, knocking the monster down and piercing the top of its head. Nan turns her attention to the shooter who attacked the monster from afar. It's none other than our boy, Hajin, who has saved her once again, just like a true manhwa protagonist. Let's go back a few minutes and see what happened with Jonah's team. They ended up hitting a huge wall, which greatly annoyed Jaden because this path was supposed to lead them to the dungeon's boss monster. Hajin confirms they are still in the right place, in fact. They've never been closer, but he didn't anticipate the wall right ahead himself. Instead of focusing on the details of that, Hajin claims the monster is lurking right behind them and wants the group to try and break the wall for him. Jaden was furious that he was in charge of operations and handling everything, but he attacks with the full force of his sword anyway. The result: the poor guy experiences a powerful shock, as the wall has been infused with potent, defensive capabilities, so even a magic attack is useless against it. Uki notices something and points to the gap right above the wall. Hajin believes they could use that gap to cross to the other side, but Jaden thinks it's a ridiculous idea, and that he's crazy for thinking they could climb a 10-meter wall, realizing that Jaden is a fool who probably can't do what he is about to accomplish. Hajin decides to go first, using his parkour technique, strengthening his grip, and making him so agile that he launches himself upward like an expert manhwa character until he reaches the top. From there, he bypasses the group and just launches himself forward. At that moment, the whole group hears a loud rumble coming from the other side. The dungeon is once again undergoing an unexpected change. Jaden doesn't know what's happening, but what they don't know is that the huge lava golem, a classic manhwa boss, has been wreaking havoc inside. Hajin comes to Nan's rescue and is surprised to find that the stunning properties of his shot just wore off and didn't last long against this overwhelmingly large creature. He calls out to Nan to run while she still can, instead of standing still. Things get worse for our boy, as the giant monster has just found its new target. Ajin's face. A classic manhwa cliffhanger, she turns pale as they beg Nam to save them now, instead of running away. Quickly, the group assumes a battle formation and attacks the lava golem from many angles. But despite their heavy blows, none of them have any effect against this beast that remains as impenetrable as ever. Seeing them rush to the rescue, Nan is glad and decides to get to work, preparing to shoot a powerful arrow and wanting the monster to stay distracted. As she concentrates, a few more moments pass and finally Esben appears out of nowhere with his surprise entrance, keeping the monster busy and distracted, allowing Nam to focus more of her strength, remembering the outcome against the demonic human from last time. She swears that things will be different this time and then releases her destructive arrow, which completely annihilates the monster's face on impact. The golem's corpse falls to the ground as lava melts from its head. The cadets can't believe they were able to defeat such a fierce monster with their combined forces, a classic manhwa battle. Some of them hope to receive a good amount of points as a reward. Nan and Esben also catch up with them, and the rest are surprised by Naun's sudden attack, which she calls her ultimate move. Hajin is uninterested in the others and focuses his attention on Esben, who has not yet transformed into a demon. At this point, it's an alteration of the original manhwa story, which will blindly cause future changes. The transformation will happen no matter what, especially because he has made a contract with the demon in this cave. Now it's going to be difficult, because there's no way of knowing when he will act against the group and cause the manhwa's plot to become chaotic. Nan's attention shifts to the boy in the distance, who is catching his breath, and she takes a moment to forget her anger towards him and decides to speak with him privately, knowing she owes him one. Nan tries to say the word thank you, feeling embarrassed to say it, but receiving her gratitude is actually a radiant experience for our boy, who can't help but wonder what just happened. He is left thinking and wonders what she just said, which causes Nan to get annoyed and confirm she won't say it again. What Hajin can't believe is that she actually went and thanked him like this. Her entire life in this manhwa has been marked by nothing but tragedy. The first tragedy to befall her occurred when she was 6 years old. It was difficult for the poor girl to lose her mother at the hands of a demon, which strengthened her resolve to one day become a heroine, a common trope in this kind of manhwa. Normally children are taught to have fun and laugh, but Nan was different. She was filled with anger and pushed her body to its most extreme limits. From a young age, she isolated herself and couldn't form meaningful connections because that would put her vulnerability and openness to others at risk regarding her past. As a consequence, only a handful of people have earned her gratitude, and there are hardly any who can be called her true friends. That's why this moment is so special for Hajin, because the manhwa character he created, who only ever said sorry, finally said something completely contrary to her nature. He knew it better than anyone as the author of the novel this manhwa is based on. Nan starts to ramble and wonders why he lets Jonghak's lackeys bother him when he is so strong and capable in real situations. After all, with just one shot from his gun he was able to stun the monster in its place. There's no way the minions are a challenge for someone like him, so he doesn't understand her intentions. Hajin expresses that he really has no way of truly defeating them. That's a strange thing for Nan to hear since she's seen him defeat a monster with his gun. The boy shows her his new pistol, the Desert Eagle, and explains that it's simply a custom weapon that helps him take care of things. In short, he's trying to avoid looking like a strong guy. Nan freaks out hearing him admit to such a crime so openly. Modified weapons are illegal at the institution in this manhwa, and would result in an immediate suspension. Hajin confirms that's the only reason he uses the weapon when he really needs it. Fortunately, he's found a way to hide this pistol inside the stigma's mark, which allows him to keep more powerful weapons stored in his inventory without getting suspended every time. However, Nan still doesn't believe him seeing how strong he is. That's when, curious, she asks him if he possesses some kind of skill related to his firearms proficiency. Hajin doesn't give her a proper answer, but she's quite happy and leaves. She's not going to rat him out for using the pistol, but she recommends he stop using it. Before leaving, she brings up another topic, the very same topic that sparked her hatred for him. Hajin stays silent for a moment and still refuses to apologize or clarify. He doesn't want to apologize and win her connection since she would forgive him, which would be very bad for what's going to happen in the future. The boy is literally planning to murder her older brother. Of course, he's not going to let it affect him mentally. His goal in this manhwa is set, to kill Chai Jin-jun in the future no matter what. When Nan returns to her group, everyone, and is eager to know if she's somehow friends with the guy. She quickly denies it, but Sven seems to have noticed something with his strange gaze. A sudden announcement is made to the cadets, and the dungeon training exercise is suspended immediately. They want everyone out of the dungeon right away. Now, there are a bunch of different problems that arose during the raid exercise. The first is the fact that all the surveillance cameras were turned off right after the exercise began. Then, in a classic manhwa twist, real monsters instead of artificial ones found their way in and appeared in place of the dummies. Finally, the staff didn't act until the last second, when things got out of hand. It was a serious incident, but there were no casualties. So the cube decided to launch an internal investigation instead of asking for help from the authorities. Hajin explains that the beast humans hiding among the cube's executive staff probably managed to suppress the matter. He knows the investigation won't happen until episode 12 is completely over. What really worries him now is the traitors' goal and their intentions with Sven. There's a side effect to making a pact with a demon. It causes emotional distress and obsession in the person. The worst possibility that crosses Hajin's mind is Sven losing control and killing Nan. He wants to make sure that future doesn't become a reality in this manhwa. That's why he's secretly tracking the movements of them both. Hajin opened his messaging app, apologizing to himself for the immoral methods he's using to get the results he wants. The system connects him to Nan's messenger account. There he sees a bunch of chats with people like Suho, Sven, and Jonghak. His only subject of interest is Sven himself, who is sending her messages to invite her to this week's house club event in the original manhwa story. This very event is the start of Esben's rampage. To make sure nothing happens, Hajin plans to follow them and do whatever it takes to neutralize the situation. He has also increased his stats, a must-do in any action manhwa, so he thinks it's finally time to go hunting in the garrison dungeon. In class, Hajin gets a sudden message from his smartwatch. He doesn't know why Sujo is calling him out of the blue. Sujo personally asks him if our boy is free on Friday because he wants to ask him something. Let's talk about Jisan. It's a mountain in Gangwon province, known for its spiritual effects. It's often called a training paradise by martial artists who come from all over the country just to train there. But not just them. The garrison is visited by many wanderers who love to roam the mountains in search of buried treasures instead of risking their lives fighting monsters. Well, one of those wanderers is the ginseng seeker, Young Hoon, and he's going to accompany our boy for this event. Hajin isn't the least bit excited or moved by Jung Hoon's enthusiasm. Jung Hoon is confident that he'll never be able to find ginseng with what he's doing, but Hajin corrects him, saying his purpose isn't ginseng, but something else. There's a lot of smack talk being directed at our boy, and he simply chooses to ignore it. Jung Hoon arrogantly assumes that this kid is inexperienced, and he's somewhat right, because Hajin stumbles and falls so many times on his way. But just then he finds the dazzling ginseng. He can't believe his eyes. The boy ends up eating the 7-year-old ginseng thanks to the modification feature, which will allow him to double his stats by 2 points for a shorter duration. The craziest thing about this particular ginseng is that if he had sold it, he could have made 700 million won from it. It still kills me that he didn't use it to pay his debt. Although Hajin stumbles and feels worried about traveling this far, he thinks it's reasonable that the dungeon he's looking for, a key location in this manhwa, hasn't been discovered yet in the garrison. Beyond its glory lies the place he seeks, the Dungeon of the Undead, the Cave of Terror, where our protagonist now faces the dungeon boss called the Death Knight, a really difficult monster common in this type of manhwa, of the upper intermediate level. The ginseng boosted his stats quite a bit, but this guy is still going to shatter Hajin's expectations. As he enters, Hajin expresses that he doesn't care about that because he has other goals in mind. Just then, a ghastly hand emerges from the ground, followed by countless undead monsters that begin to crawl out to greet our boy at the dungeon entrance, ready to fight them all. Hajin readies his stigma magic and reflects that his true intentions are not to defeat the boss monster today. The real goal is to access the dungeon's hidden stage, a classic manhwa objective. Suddenly, all the skeleton monsters charge at the seemingly helpless boy. The boy pulls out his weapon and literally annihilates one of the undead monsters at point-blank range. Talk about a stylish shot. The same happens to the rest of the undead monsters that are easily taken down with each shot. Hajin activates his precision eagle eye skill to track the trajectory of his shots, making for a great manhwa panel. Then he uses his swift agility to jump over the monsters and attack them from above, racking up more kills. After killing enough of them, Hajin stops shooting and realizes he's finished defeating them all. However, the number of these undead monsters will increase as he gets closer to the hidden stage. This is a clear sign that he's heading towards the evangelist's location. Now, this person named Evangel is actually a witch who is supposed to act as the boss of the garrison dungeon's hidden stage. This witch plays a major role in the future, as she's going to build Evangel's castle, the fortress of the undead, the most terrifying in human history. She will make an abandoned school her host and unleash chaos. She's going to be really troublesome to deal with when she matures and becomes more powerful, so our boy is keen on eliminating her, while he still can. After defeating her, he expects to get 2 items as a reward. The first is an upgradable piece of equipment called the Ether, and the second is the Seed of Evangel. Now, in the original novel this manhwa is based on, both items were responsible for helping the demon Arthur become so powerful that he became the executive force of evil. He approaches the gate of the dungeon's hidden stage, where only darkness awaits him. By activating his precision eagle eye, he can peer deep into the cave without worrying about monsters. There he sees a glowing dead tree with crystals emerging from it. His target is the young witch who hasn't matured yet, and is very vulnerable in her current state, as it's incredibly complicated to defeat a fully matured witch in this manhwa. His only chance to defeat her is now, when she is physically incapacitated, and is weaker than her mature version. The little witch plays with her spell and has fun. The scene is too innocent for our boy Hajin, who has literally come here with the purpose of preventing the catastrophe she will unleash someday in the future. His emotions try to get the better of him, but he accepts full responsibility and musters the courage to kill her. After all, even the future executive of evil, Arthur, did the same as he gets closer to her. Hajin reasons that the little witch is nothing more than a small creation of his. After all, he is the reason for her existence, and he is the reason for her death. So in this particular situation, Hajin activates the power of his stigma magic, and creates a magic spear wreathed with light attribute magic. This should be enough to kill the witch in a single blow. He is also very impressed by the effects of the aged ginseng, as it boosted his stats considerably. Believe it or not, this man hurls the darn spear with all his might towards the little witch, annihilating her spiritual form with a clean headshot. I didn't expect it to be so brutal, but oh well. Anyway, Hajin expected his previous attack to eliminate her completely, but for some reason, she's much stronger than she looks, even while being immature. She managed to survive the brutal attack. The little witch recovers her lost spiritual body with what's left of her powers. The dungeon begins to tremble in a great earthquake, as the little witch. It finally becomes unable to maintain its form and explodes in a wave of dust before Hajin's eyes. At last, the 2 items he was looking for have dropped. The seed of Ibangle contains the witch's soul, allowing Ibangle to be resurrected once the germination process is complete. The ether, on the other hand, allows the owner to reinforce their weapon and enhance their powers upon acquiring the ether item. All of Hajin's stats are increased by 6. The system also informs him that this item cannot be traded again. In his dorm room, Hajin is happy to experience the item's effects. His mission ended up being a success. The ether's effects will only further amplify his abilities once he levels up. With all the skills he has acquired so far, he thinks he's somewhat capable of being a cube cadet at his current level. Not to mention, he has also gained almost 50 story points, as well as experienced the effects of ginseng, a staple power-up in this manhwa. The best part of his raid is the seed of Ibangle he acquired, which can be used to resurrect the witch at any time through germination. The title of the Witch of Despair might make her seem like a villain, but in reality, if Hajin plays his cards right, he could help develop Ibangle into a strong ally. This manhwa is full of such opportunities. Now, the germination part isn't that difficult. According to the author, it only sounds complicated, but all it needs is a bit of blood to develop over time. The witch's personality is determined by the blood of the person who provides it, so it's best for Hajin to select an ideal candidate. He's already thinking of asking Suju and Rachel so that the witch shows a bit of kindness towards him. At the same time, he just can't imagine asking Jonah or Noun, as they would cause a scandal, and would somewhat ruin the witch's personality. It's a red flag he's going to avoid. The real question is, how he's going to acquire the blood. Hajin leaves it for later, and thinks he should get some rest, as tomorrow is the main event that will drain much of his strength. The hunting club, where Sven will probably cause a scene against Nan, is just around the corner, after all. The next day, at the Cow Mineral Waters, a group of cube cadets is delighted to be part of their first outing orientation. This kind of school life event is common in a manhwa. A girl is giving a speech, addressing the cadets, and decides to repeat the club's activities one last time. Hajin is part of this group, paying close attention. The girl explains that the Leonidas Hunting Club will conduct its usual hunt, but she also reminds them not to treat this as a hobby. It's a serious responsibility, as it works to help the public and the citizens of the province. While this is happening, Hajin is sweating buckets. He doesn't know what's going to happen and how the manhwa's plot will change direction. The only thing he knows is a simple description of what occurred in the original novel. Sven's outburst against Non left her severely injured, while he himself was killed in battle. Hajin wrote the manhwa's story this way to allow Sujo to get closer to Noun and care for her. What's really interesting is that while people are very focused on Hajin as the demon's target, John becomes the victim while he's defenseless. Hajin is extremely cautious and even terrified of the outcome, as it's very different from the original manhwa story arc he created for the character. Esben, although possessing some fragments of demonic power, has not yet manifested a full transformation at his current level, a classic setup in this manhwa. Hajin hopes that ideally, Esben will have a tantrum here, so he will have the best opportunities to defeat him with other people. While his eyes are fixed on Esben, Nayun feels uncomfortable with the constant stares from our boy. She doesn't understand why he's looking at her like that, unaware that he's monitoring Esben's every move, a key detail in this manhwa. Nayun also starts to fear that this guy might have a secret crush on her, which is quite funny. Esben is also wary of him and tells her to be careful, but Nayun takes his warning as a joke, as he poses no threat to her. Esben clarifies that he's referring to the disappearances that have been happening recently, hinting that our boy Hajin might be involved. However, Nayun has developed some trust in him and believes he's an innocent guy who isn't the type to act that way. The hunt begins, a pivotal moment for this manhwa's plot. Esben and Nayun go ahead with Hajin, following them and watching for any incidents. Some time passes and they are in the forest, where an innocent deer is annihilated by a brutal demon. This brutal demon is none other than the wretched Esben, showing the dark turn this manhwa is taking, who is testing his newly acquired demonic powers. Esben lets go of the animal when he hears Nayun's voice calling him. She has hunted an animal by herself, but what really amazes her is the fact that this guy hunted much more than she did in such a quick move, while he stands there looking completely innocent, with her having no idea what's going on. Esben claims victory for the hunting mission and, as part of their deal, he gets to ask her for anything. But when the time comes to state his wish, the guy gets tangled up in his feelings and tries to ask her out. While this is happening, our boy Hajin keeps a sharp eye on both of them. After all, he knows this could be problematic. The demon he's come into a pact with is called the Carnal of Desire, and as such, a person who becomes a demon as its puppet is filled with their own desires, a common trope in this kind of manhwa. That's why Esben is unable to control himself right now. Anyway, Esben gets serious and blurts out his words. He wants Nayun to be his girlfriend. Hearing those words, the girl freezes for a moment, not knowing what to say. Her bewildered and surprised reaction makes him wonder if she's trying to reject him. Nayun confirms that she doesn't know how she feels about dating someone she's only known for a short while. Her cold words really hurt him. Hajin believes this should be enough to trigger Esben's obsession, which would make him snap and reveal his true nature. Nayun further clarifies that she likes guys who are more powerful than her. Well, if her previous words didn't get to him, this surely will, and indeed, it does. The guy looks completely destroyed, and they said the worst she could say is no. Anyway, Nayun emphasizes her point and tries to leave, but Esben isn't getting the message and asks if he just has to prove he's stronger than her. At this point, she's getting irritated and uncomfortable with his words. Suddenly, a demonic hand lunges towards her. Esben annihilates the very ground she's standing on, acting as if he were possessed by the nine-tailed fox with this beast form, a terrifying power-up in any manhwa. Tail. And anyway, the reason our girl survived the brutal attack is because Hajin intervened and amplified her defense shield, thanks to the ether gear. Just as she turns to ask him if he's okay, he's struck by Esben with a powerful blow. Nayun tries to grab her weapon in the short time she has, while Hajin struggles for his life as the demon strangles him. Nayun immediately activates magic condensation and slices off one of the tentacles, demanding that he release him. This guy goes completely insane and starts talking about how much he loves Nayun and becomes obsessed with her. His obsession makes his demonic form grow stronger, a terrifying sight in any manhwa. Nayun is furious and keeps using her magic condensation, while Hajin is unable to act. A ray of green light illuminates the place, as Nayun manages to reach the heights of her potential. The author explains that there are some characters in the world who end up choosing the wrong weapons that don't match their gifts. Of those characters, Nayun is at the top of the list, as her true specialty isn't long-range weapons but magic. She materializes a giant sword with all her strength, and demands that Esben release Hajin immediately. Nayun proceeds to launch a catastrophic attack against the demon. The aftermath of this attack is nothing short of destruction, a scene straight out of an action manhwa. It tore through the very ground, impressing Nayun with her own powers. Hajin can't believe what he just saw. He thinks the girl just launched a damn lightsaber like she's the last Jedi or something. A classic manhwa power-up moment. She's as confused as he is and doesn't know what happened. More importantly, Nayun is worried about whether he's okay. Hajin confirms that he's fine, but her own condition is a real mess, as her last attack completely depleted her power. Her vision blurs and she collapses to the ground. Hajin rushes to help her. After a while, the unconscious girl finally wakes up and is startled to realize that he's giving her a piggyback ride. She's so embarrassed that she wants him to put her down immediately. Hajin doesn't think that's a sensible idea and is trying to help her, but this girl is too ashamed to accept his help. He lets her go, causing her legs to give out from under her, and she collapses to the ground once more. Nayun is terrified, as she doesn't even have the strength to stand. It's almost as if she's lost control of her legs. Hajin looks at her with a bewildered expression and asks if this is her first time suffering from mana exhaustion. From her fatigued and dazed expression, Hajin confirms that she's probably never even heard of it before. He explains to her that mana exhaustion occurs when a person has used up every last drop of their mana, causing them to become powerless. This means it'll be difficult for her to walk on her own for at least the next 2 days. Hajin teases her, wondering if he should just leave her here, out of options. Nayun is forced to accept his help and climbs onto his back. As they head back, Hajin asks if she's still going to continue using her bow as her main weapon, since he's seen incredible development in the battle. Nayun is confused about what he means, but Hajin tells her that even she must have felt something within herself. She unlocked a new ability that was previously unknown to her. Thanks to her magical powers, she could help annihilate hundreds of monsters and demons with just a single slash, a scene straight out of an action manhwa. When it comes to an all-out war, the powers Nayun just manifested are nearly unstoppable, a truly epic manhwa moment. That's why she's called the Supreme Sovereign of the battlefield in the future. But for that to happen, she'll have to give up her precious weapon that she's used since she was young. Non is furious because she knows how much he cares about what's best for her. Hajin thinks she'll stick with the bow for a while longer, so he helps her get closer to the portal and recommends that she go the rest of the way alone. Non is taken aback by his sudden departure, even begging him to stay. But this guy is quite calm and leaves because he's not one of them. The next day, news of the assault on Chae-Yun reaches the ears of many cadets at the Cube, and the manhwa's rumor mill starts turning as they learn the identity of the villain, Esben. He simply walks among the cadets without paying them any mind, approaches a door, and opens it, only to find a bunch of notable characters gathered in one place. There's Hyuk-jin, Hyuk-jina, and then the class representative, Jongan. The key players have gathered in one place, and Hajin is now one of them, right in the center of this manhwa's plot. Let's now talk about the day before the incident with Chae-Yun. Sujo invited our guy to hang out on Friday, because he needed a favor from Hajin. When Hajin asked for more information, Sujo told him he was interested in investigating the disappearance of some students. The institution has put him in charge of leading the team among the cadets, as they hope to prevent external interventions, so they decided to form an internal investigation, led by cadets from all grades to eventually catch the culprit. The representatives of the initial investigation team are prominent manhwa characters like Sujo, Hyuk-jin, and Non. Sujo also added that the institution could have done the investigation using their own staff, but they decided the most effective way to catch the culprit hidden among the cadets was by using the cadets themselves. Hajin understood all that, but he didn't understand why he was the one being requested. Surprisingly, he found out that Non had made a personal request to add him to the group, which is why Sujo decided to take that step and invite him. Therefore, Hajin ended up accepting, as it would also help him get more story points, which is generally useful for a manhwa protagonist. Sujo begins to explain that they'll need everyone's input to solve the case. He also wants to present the deductions that everyone has made so far. None of them believe that the incident related to Esben and Non has anything to do with the investigation, but just as Sujo talks about this point, Jungkook gets filled with anger, questioning if they're talking about the same Non from their class. Sujo doesn't know why he's being so dramatic and believes she will be the next target in their class. This is supported by the fact that demons give orders to fiends, which means the demon that formed a pact with Esben in this dark fantasy manhwa is probably still after Non using other puppets. Sujo then asks if the rest of them find anyone suspicious who should be added to the list, as it would be a great help to know now. Hajin, for his part, knows who is responsible for the disappearances, but as is common in a mystery manhwa, he's keeping it to himself. He is trying not to interfere with the story's events, which is why he doesn't want to reveal the culprit's identity. This is what Ajin believed, as in the original story. 6 students disappeared out of nowhere within 2 months. But what's really interesting is that 3 students have already disappeared in 2 weeks in the current timeline, which means the plot is moving faster, and more students could fall victim to this guy in this thrilling manhwa. Faced with this situation and remembering how he helped Nayun, Ajin faces a difficult decision. While he wants to let the story unfold at its own pace, it also means risking the people he cares about. He no longer wants to be the person who ignores evil deeds. So Ajin quickly raises his hand and claims he knows someone who could be a prime suspect. He names this person Hun, the charming president of the study club. His sudden accusation causes the entire room to fall into absolute silence. Sujo argues that it can't be him, since they've already investigated the guy and nothing came of it. Jonghak especially scoffs at this suggestion, as it would mean that Hun is using psychic magic to lure his victims. Ajin counters that he doesn't know if he's using typical psychic magic, but he still has his doubts. Suddenly, Jonah joins the discussion, launching a sharp attack on our friend Ajin. She thinks it's rather strange that he accuses others instead of the club president. Jonah believes he might be the person most likely to be the villain involved. Ajin is baffled by her words, as this is a huge deviation from the manhwa plot he wrote. Let's go back to the beginning of the novel. Right when this whole manhwa world was being created, Ajin felt the need to add a character, being assistant to the main protagonist. This character, he thought, it would be necessary to help Sujo with his strong personality and complex interests. Happily adding the character back then, the author Kim Ajin named this character Yu Jonah. And now, back to the present, Jonah emphasizes her point, counter-accusing Ajin of being the real villain among them. Sujo tries to defend our guy, explaining that Ajin has the alibi of using a portal at the time of the incidents. Jonah explains that she's just dealing in baseless accusations just like our boy. She thinks it's pointless to mention the study club president's name like that, when Hun's alibi is more solid compared to Ajin's. The instructor tries to control the situation, but the tension in the manhwa has already boiled over, as one of the other characters is enraged, and suggests they all attack him and see if he transforms or not. The situation turns in Jonghak's favor, who has been wanting this to happen all along. Meanwhile, Ajin is stunned and doesn't understand why the manhwa's plot is turning against him, why he has to bear the brunt of their suspicions. He lets out a small laugh and, instead of backing down, he roars at the cadet, daring him to come and attack if he's really interested in getting a bullet in the head. I'm not gonna lie, I really like this side of him. Sujo tries to break up their dispute while Ajin argues that they should consult Nayun to clear the suspicions about him. He's about to mention how they were in the portal together when Jonghak suddenly throws a basketball at him with all her might. Enraged that he mentioned her name, Jonghak questions why he is bringing her name up. Ajin argues that when he was attacked by the villain, they both combined forces to defeat the monster. He even belittles Jonghak and his lack of knowledge about the obvious details of the incident. Jonghak loses his temper, while the class representative helps calm him down. Chaos breaks out among the main characters. Ajin clears his name and proceeds to leave. But just as he's reaching the door, the cadet lunges to hit him with a powerful fist. Ajin senses his overwhelming presence and instantly dodges the punch, which shatters the door to pieces. Even Jonghak is surprised by his sudden attack, while the assailant is stunned that Ajin managed to dodge his extremely fast strike. Now, Ajin is furious and pulls out his gun to shoot him. The cadet lunges to attack him, while Ajin prepares to shoot. Both are stopped by a sword slash from the manhwa's main character himself, Sujo. He thinks that Hak has quite overstepped his bounds, and even believes that John is going too far instead of consulting Nayun first about his suspicions. She stops before using her smartwatch, and Ajin walks away, while John learns from a call from Nayun that it's physically impossible for Ajin to be a suspect, now that Nayun herself has cleared his name. Everyone in the room not only feels ashamed, but also completely guilty for how they mistreated him. Honestly, they don't deserve his help. Ajin storms off and clears his head on the field, facing a real impasse, not understanding why he's having so much trouble dealing with his current life. At first, he was a victim of the plot of the manhwa novel he wrote, and now he's fighting against the characters he wrote with so much passion. Unable to go on, Ajin curls up in defeat and confesses that he's tired of the world he's living in. He misses his real family back home and expresses a desire to return to his own world. Thoughts like his lease that is about to expire start to bother him, and he wonders if they have already listed him as a missing person in the real world. Then there are his parents. He wonders if they are okay and if they are looking for him. There's so much to process in this manhwa world that he was trying to suppress, and, right now, he feels powerless and vulnerable, fragile and trapped. There's no way to go back. But he can't help but express a deep desire to return. While the guy is complaining, the system appears and reveals that his resilience stat has increased in response to what happened today. Ajin thinks it's kind of useless, but he's still happy that his resilience has increased a little. He believes that the person who entered this world might have already taken their own life if they didn't have the resilience to keep going. Deciding to get over his complaining, he pulls himself together like a champ and, from the same hunched posture, he now rises as a confident hero, ready to face life again. Let's get back to Sujo and the rest of the fools who messed everything up. Johan asks where Hajin went. Sujo thinks he went out to get some space for himself. There's Jonah, who knows that the fool hack even used his ability. Now, what's more, she thinks it's really suspicious how Hajin managed to dodge an attack from a martial artist, while he himself is a long-range weapon user. That only makes her even more suspicious of him. Well, she receives a sudden message from June, who asks her to see him in the study hall the next day. This is exactly what Hajin, the author of this manhwa world, said would happen. But as much as she likes to be distrustful, this fool accepts the offer from a person who is literally finishing off murdering someone at that very moment. Hajin starts to understand why people say it's better to stay busy when you're depressed. Since getting transmigrated into this manhwa's story, he's been so busy improving himself and hunting that he forgot to think about the details of what he misses from the real world. He's sitting silently while the other characters like Sujo and Yongan are visibly worried about him, especially after the phenomenon the other day. Hajin is a bit frustrated when he realizes he's trapped in a manhwa with the characters he himself wrote. He thinks it's a good time to start looking for ways to return home. Nayun returns to class having recovered her health. Despite Jonghak's concerns for her, Sujo offers to help her, as she's not yet in top shape. Jonghak is a bit possessive of her and isn't afraid to show it. Hajin is focused on Jonah, who is sitting unconcerned about what happened yesterday. The class begins with the instructor reminding them of the upcoming midterm exams. After the written exam is held, they will move on to the practical exam, where they will be evaluated on 2 tasks. The first task is a duel between the cadets, while the second task will be evaluated based on a battle against monsters, a classic setup in this kind of manhwa, using beasts summoned by mages. The instructor points out that the difficulty of both tasks will be more rigorous than the normal exercises they usually do. Hearing this, Hajin reflects that he's not at all worried about the written exam. The only thing bothering him is the duel. Each cadet will be given 3 nomination cards that will determine the cadets they will face as opponents. At first, it seems like in a typical academy manhwa plot, the top-ranking students would easily crush the lower-ranking ones by choosing them as their targets. However, the Cube institution knows this, so they implemented a reward-based scoring system. This means that if a high-ranking student defeats a low-ranking one, they won't get many points from it. They might even receive negative points depending on the cadet's rank. However, not every manhwa character seems to be affected by this rule, like Oro, who is a typical brawler and acts on impulse. He's just trying to beat up Hajin as his sole target. Other than that, something else is bothering Hajin. Rachel has been acting a bit weird around him and has been keeping close. Hajin explains that she's always been secretly watching him while he usually studies alone. He doesn't understand what she's trying to do, or if her intention is to copy his homework. Rachel glances at his notes as he writes the names of her parents happily for her. This only causes the girl to become even more confused. The scene shifts to John's side, where John is eagerly awaiting her arrival. She doesn't know what this is about and approaches the study room where this charming prince, a staple in any romance manhwa, is happily waiting for her. She doesn't think much of it and realizes that none of the other club members are there yet. John insists that she take a seat, as they will be there very soon. Jonah sees a candle with a strange scent placed in plain sight. Hun makes an excuse, saying he's using it to improve his concentration while studying. He talks about how she is part of the research team, a key role in this manhwa's plot. To hunt the demon responsible for the student disappearances, Hun is also on one of the teams, but he hasn't seen any progress on his end, so he wonders if Jonah has any suspicions about the matter. She claims that no one really comes to mind, but at the same time she can't help but remember how a fool spoke of baseless accusations. Intrigued, Hun asks more and with a snap of his fingers controls Jonah's body, making her feel incredibly relaxed. As if hypnotized, she confesses the truth, saying that one of her classmates seems convinced that Hun is the demon in this manhwa, and that he is using psychic powers on the involved victims. Hun asks enthusiastically if there is any evidence to prove this. This is the moment where he gets careless. Jonah immediately notices the word evidence, mentioned by Hun. He tries to play it down and says he misspoke, but she's already too deep in her suspicions now. Jonah readies her weapon and states that innocent people never talk about evidence when suspected of wrongdoing, since they are innocent in the first place. Jonah pulls out her whip, attacking Hun and demanding to know his true identity. Finally, the curtains are pulled back and this sinister demon reveals his true nature, a scene worthy of a great manhwa, telling Jonah that her turn will come soon, so there's no reason to rush. The scene ends there and shifts to the second-year student dorms. Here, Jonah awakens, finally regaining consciousness, only to find herself trapped and all tied up. Her eyes drift towards the objects placed in the empty room. She quickly recognizes that these are the second-year dorms, which means Hun has captured her, which also means he is the hidden demon responsible for all the student disappearances. This dark manhwa plot just got real. This fool finally realized that Hajin wasn't misleading her, but instead of blaming herself, she prioritizes a way out of this situation. She tries to break free from the rope binding her hands, pleading for someone to come and release her, but it's no use as Hun is already here and prefers she stay quiet and do as he asks. The scene shifts to our boy Hajin, who has just received a sudden message from someone in the middle of the night. It's from Jonah, so he can't deduce what it's about. Jonah sent only a simple number 9, which is a message, too cryptic for this guy to understand. Anyway, the miserable Hun smashes her smartwatch and mocks Jonah for sending cryptic messages in the middle of the night, in her struggling state. He also takes note of the recipient, Hajin, who was supposed to be the person Jonah had turned against. He thinks it's inevitable that Hajin will die too, a grim thought for any manhwa protagonist. Then Jonah shouts at him, claiming he won't get away with this, especially since the investigation team will be after him. The killer Hun smashes Jonah's smartwatch and reminds the girl he has no interest in staying at the institution. He's just going to kill her and leave the cube upon hearing her words. Jonah is filled with immeasurable rage. For his own charming entertainment, he decides to summon the demon Lilith, a classic trope in this kind of manhwa. Hun wants to transform her expression into one of horror. Let's get back to Hajin, who is still wondering what Jonah tried to imply with this message. There are a ton of questions popping into his head when he suddenly connects the dots and realizes it's supposed to be 911. Instantly equipping himself with the Tome of Truth, a classic manhwa power-up, Hajin asks for the immediate location, with which the book reveals the answer. Hajin is surprised to see she is in the second dormitories as the scene cuts back to Jonah's predicament, who is currently facing the voice of the demon Lilith. She consoles the girl who has faced so much loneliness throughout her life. However, Jun's psychic powers in this manhwa are not enough to take her down, as Jonah glares at him with anger, proving her will is strong and that she is not ready to give up her dignity. She resists his mind control, so he takes things a step further and caresses her hair, claiming that even the demon Lilith wants to succumb to his spell. The girl struggles as best she can to break free from the psychic spell, while the monster Jun, a classic manhwa villain, cheerfully comments that there is no way to escape Lilith's powerful magic, no matter how hard she tries to resist. Then, out of nowhere, a shot hits him in the head from the window. His brains spill onto the floor as he howls in agony. A voice calls out to Jonah, mocking her for the situation she has put herself in by refusing to believe his words. The wounded demon calls out the insolent Hajin, who happily adds that the bullet he just used was custom-made for him. This bullet will not come out unless proper surgery is performed, so there is no way to simply heal from it. Jun goes berserk and unleashes his demonic powers, much like a final boss in a manhwa, urging Hajin to reveal his location. In his rage, he destroys the entire room, even hitting Jonah with his attack. Hajin thinks he is just wasting his energy for nothing. He taunts Jun, who still does not know where he is. Our boy is ready to pull the trigger a second time, a classic manhwa hero move, claiming he is sitting somewhere far away. He then fires 3 more shots, piercing the demon's body and leaving him on the floor. His body slumps as he finally spots Hajin's hidden location from afar. He was firing with his calibrated sniper rifle. Easy kills are the reason he loves long-range shots, a common trope in action manhwa. He reminds Jonah that he is going to waste all the bullets she gave him, putting more holes into Jun and hoping Jonah will cover his expenses later. This guy has literally terrified the demon, who believes Hajin is crazier than an actual demon. Hajin puts another hole in his back with another powerful shot. At this point, Jun is a walking zombie riddled with holes. Satisfied with his work, Hajin thinks that should be enough. He asks Jonah if she is hurt, but thankfully she is not. He advises her to just pass out, as the rescue team will be there soon. Her consciousness fades as she utters words of gratitude to the person who just saved her life. Jonah wakes up in the hospital, where Suho is sitting by her side peeling an apple. Suho mentions that there is nothing wrong with her physical condition, so she should be fine. She takes the trouble to ask why he is there. Suho explains that they each took turns looking after her until she recovered, and now it is his turn. Jonah does not understand why they are doing this for her, a touching moment in the manhwa. Suho expresses that they feel responsible for the situation, since they were members of the research team and yet one of their own was injured while they were focused elsewhere. Suho apologizes on behalf of the entire group, Jonah is left speechless and gets the feeling that Sujo is stubborn. She has also formed a positive opinion of him through this interaction. However, the misunderstanding with Hajin has not left her mind. Do you want to know if a person, in particular, came to check on him? Yona understands what he means, but is too embarrassed to clarify. Yona decides not to press the issue and looks at the beautiful sky outside. Later that day, Hajin receives a personal message from Yona, who wants to help reward him for his actions. The situation turned out positively for Hajin, as his story points increased by almost 500, advancing the manhwa's plot, and his skill, Dead Eye, leveled up, reaching level 7. Hajin notes that this is the largest amount of story points he has ever received for a single action. He thinks that the effort required to resolve one of the main manhwa arcs justifies the points he received, even though he hasn't used his sniper skills much. They were enough to get Johan out of danger. At that moment, a voice calls out to Hajin. It's Agent Swak, who seems delighted to know that the young cadet contacted him. Suddenly, the man immediately kneels, begging Hajin not to give up on the contract they made. It's not that serious for Hajin, as he never planned to do such a thing. Instead, he presents a briefcase to the man, stating that he's interested in investing his money in SH Entertainment. The agent is surprised by this unexpected manhwa-like plot twist. Let's break down Hajin's thought process. The ginseng he acquired and posted on the website returned a brilliant sum of 300 million. First, he used 250 million of that amount to invest in Paco Remedy stocks. The remaining 150 million he wants to invest in SH Entertainment, considering the company's growth potential. Hajin is sure it will bring him profits, just as it did with Paco Remedy. The agent is too astonished to speak. He can't even consider himself worthy of receiving such a massive amount. Hajin tells him he should simply accept the sum for the benefit of both of them. Furthermore, he makes an additional request to purchase a magic bag and a high-utility vehicle, essential items in any progression manhwa. After confirming the agent's age, Hajin tells him to relax with the formality and treat him more casually. The agent can't accept that from his newest investor, which makes Hajin wonder if he should cancel the investment. That puts the agent back on alert and he decides to address Hajin more casually. They decide to take a walk to the convenience store to buy something. The agent asks why they are bothering with lottery tickets now. Hajin is so damn smart that he knows he can't receive the lottery prize money without an active guardian. He wants to make the best use of his luck skill. Hajin wins 2 billion from the lottery alone, a windfall worthy of a manhwa protagonist. To give you a rough comparison, that's equivalent to $1.5 million. Hajin is prepared to invest this amount as well, and wants the agent to edit the contract accordingly. The agent tries to receive his blessing and guards it with his life, afraid that someone will end up stealing that sum from him. Meanwhile, in an unknown warehouse, a spiritual creature straight from a fantasy manhwa materializes and tells its master that a certain group has started to move. The leader of the Packhorse Masters Guild has been targeted. This manhwa's leader intends to steal a particular item and disregards the rest. The spiritual creature also comments on having witnessed something strange, adding to the manhwa's suspense. It is noticed that someone is aggressively buying up the shares of the Packhorse Masters Guild, a classic power move in this type of manhwa. This person invested 3 million, then 10 million, and now a staggering 250 million. It seems suspicious for someone to have that much money without a proper name. However, the leader doesn't care and prioritizes working on their objective. The spirit creature also reports seeing a bunch of new pages opening on the website. There's stuff about the Relic Search Group and the Truth Agency. Something about the Truth Agency seems strange to him. He wonders if they should file a request to locate the target. The leader aggressively addresses Drum by name, warning him to stop his comedy routine. Drum remembers that the midterm exams are supposed to start tomorrow. Everyone is talking about Kim Suho and Shin Jonghak. Drum wonders if his boss will infiltrate the scene. It turns out she plans to make a move and hopes to find someone useful among the group, which in this case is implied to be Hajin. Some time passed, and the opening of the practical tests for the midterm exams finally began. Oski jumps and affectionately hugs her mother, since it had been a while since they'd seen each other. During the practical week, it's explained that Cube opens up to many employment agencies like guilds and associations, as well as the families of the involved cadets. This results in a massive, festival-like crowd. An announcement is made confirming Cube's position as the world's leading hero academy, a setting popular in many a manhwa. One of the most prominent heroes, Lee Juna, is personally making the announcement, but Hajin doesn't seem excited about anything so far. He wonders if he should wait a bit longer. He acquired drones from Suyuki and distributed them throughout the institution for his personal investigation into any intruders. While there, he accidentally bumps into a lady and apologizes for the intrusion. This woman is the same one we saw in the secret warehouse, the one who has come here looking for talent. Upon seeing her face to face, Hajin's expression falters, because he completely forgot about this character's appearance in the manhwa, who was supposed to make her entrance during the practical exams. His surprised and nervous expression has left him too exposed. Hajin looks away, realizing he has made the situation a bit awkward. He tries to remedy the situation by saying something, but the words that come out of his mouth end up praising her beauty instead. The woman gives him a cold, dead stare, confirming that this fool has made the situation 100 times worse. She simply turns away without responding, as if to say he's not even worth the effort. The woman disappears into the crowd and asks Drum to be wary of the person she just crossed paths with, because this individual somehow managed to notice her despite her perception-blocking item, and since he is suspicious, she wants Drum to investigate him further. The author reflects that it's not just heroes who come to welcome the cadets. Among them is the Chameleon Troop, a classic shadow organization in this type of manhwa. Their sole objective is to spy on Suho or Jonghak. As one of the top rankers, Suho doesn't really like their belief systems and is ultimately disqualified as a prospective student for their IST. So they turn their attention to Jonghak specifically, and that's how the original plot of the manhwa novel follows. The infiltration isn't the problem bothering Hajin, but the changes to the manhwa's story that could arise from the alterations, which could also involve the security heroes. The fight won't end with just a couple of deaths, but with much more. Speaking of the Chameleon Group, the heroes are a bit annoyed at not being able to find a suspicious person. One of the heroes thinks they'll get a bad reputation if an intruder slips past them right in the middle of the practical week. By the way, these two heroes are Juno and Yeonji, both ranked quite high in the association for their manhwa-level skills. They are trying to eliminate a threat before it manifests in the practical week exam. Anyway, let's talk about the suspicious leaders team. They are surprised that a boy was able to see past the siren necklace that offers a perception lock function to hide its target. The man is really interested now, because all he sees around him are nothing but weaklings. As for Drun, she can't figure this fool out, since all this guy in the manhwa thinks about is fighting strong people, and that's what he wants to do with Hajin. He is instructed to stay focused and on mission, as they are not sure of the boy's true capabilities or if he poses a threat to them. Drun also tells him that the duels are about to begin. The second arena is filled with a large crowd, preparing to witness the first match of the day. The first announced duel involves a nomination ticket. Kim Hajin is on his way to the arena, when Jonah stops him suddenly and asks if he is heading to the arena. He confirms it because he is supposed to be part of the first match. Satisfied, Jonah decides to use her servant to offer him 100 premium bullets, just as she promised. Sure, he's not supposed to use them during the exam, but they are at his disposal to use as he needs. She is also willing to lend him more in the future, if necessary. Upon accepting the briefcase, Jonah clarifies that she isn't trying to balance things between them just because he saved her life, but that she wants him to see it more as a gift from her. She also tells him that many people have asked her about the person who defeated the demon human, Kojin, during the previous incident. However, since she knows his identity is valuable to him, she decided to keep quiet. Hajin is glad and hopes she behaves that way in the future. Obviously, a lot of trouble will come his way if people find out he is the one responsible for eliminating Kojin. This is a classic manhwa problem. Jonah is strangely talkative today, and even claims to accept that Hajin is hiding his powers for a reason. At the same time, she thinks he has no chance of passing the exam without using his powers. In response to her claim, Hajin is a little bewildered. She asks him if he knows who he will be facing, and the surprised look on his face is enough to say that he didn't know until now. Inside the training waiting room, a furious Mead is lifting weights, hoping to completely destroy Kim Hajin. This manhwa is setting up a great rivalry in this upcoming match. The manhwa scene shifts back to Drun, who is investigating everything there is to know about Kim Hajin's past. There's nothing special to highlight about him. He was an orphan who ended up in the military academy. He is also a low-ranking student, a typical manhwa protagonist, with no special talents. The only thing known about him is that he has a huge debt of 300 million that he needs to pay. Reflecting on what happened between them, the woman wonders how he broke through. And the perception-blocking ability of his artifact, he doesn't know how it happened, and Drun has no idea either. Junior, the muscular guy from before, decides to meet with the leader of the Chameleon Group. She's annoyed because he went somewhere else before coming here. Junior tries to play it cool, but she's not interested, and just asks him what he managed to investigate. He claims he didn't see anyone special in the group, aside from weaklings who got in his way. Drun thinks that's obvious, but she wants to know if there's any particular cadet who stood out from the rest. Junior claims he found no one worth mentioning. Drun explains that the first-year students are supposed to be exceptional this year, so she'd rather have Junior investigate them instead. There's also the fact that Hajin's duel is about to begin, the same guy who managed to see past his captain's perception-blocking ability, a key plot point in this manhwa. In the arena, the high-ranking heroes are eating as carefree as ever. Instead of attending to their surveillance duties, they're talking about old times and family, when suddenly a man catches their attention. It's Uni, and he's strangely sitting there smiling for some reason. They wonder if he's some kind of hero fan, since he's watching them from afar. Anyway, the fight is supposed to begin. Hak, the martial arts master, is the first contestant to appear on stage. The one he's supposed to face is one of the worst students in the institution, Kim Hajin, in a classic Manhwa underdog fight. Both fighters face off and, since Hajin knows he's previously irritated Oro, he messes with him a bit and deals severe psychological damage. Hak's special move involves using the mana inside his body to create an invisible layer called Enhanced Protection Energy. It's the first match of the year, and both fighters are ready to go when the referee gives the signal. Hak is the obvious and aggressive fighter, who makes his first move while Hajin waits in anticipation, immediately activating bullet time to analyze him. Moreover, he has increased the duration of bullet time from 3 seconds to a full minute, a common trope in action manhwa, which is insane. This will give him the time needed to catch up with Hak's incredibly fast movements. Still, that doesn't save him from getting knocked out of the arena by the guy, taking him down. Even Hajin thinks Hak is some kind of monster. The cadet is aggressive on offense and chases after Hajin while destroying chunks of the arena. Hajin finds the opportune moment and pulls out his pistol. Finally, he can use his shot, baiting the arrogant cadet into believing his opponent has no idea what he's doing by dismissing the defensive capabilities, a classic manhwa battle tactic, of his protection energy. The cadet thinks the bullet coming at him will be easily deflected without a problem, but that's exactly what Hajin wanted him to believe. The bullet connects and causes him overwhelming pain, damaging his shoulder. A stunned cadet is as bewildered as the rest of the people watching this fight. A bullet piercing through the enhanced protection energy had never been heard of before. Only now is the cadet starting to realize what kind of manhwa protagonist he's up against. There's simply no conceivable way for a bullet to pierce his impenetrable shield. After all the confusion, he gets worried and shrinks his body to block the incoming bullets. However, each one of them causes him pain, a brutal display in this manhwa. Sharp and throbbing, Hajin feels sorry for his opponent, who assumed he was more than capable of deflecting his bullets so easily. The truth is, these bullets have been specially infused with the mana of stigma magic, a power system you'd expect in this kind of manhwa, and at the same time possess anti-demon properties, making them a force to be reckoned with. Hajin fires more of his shots, putting the cadet on the defensive and on the back foot. The crowd cheers for the boy, but the cadet named Hak has had enough, and in a fit of rage, smashes the arena to stop Hajin's relentless attack. The debris flying from the arena causes Hajin to reposition and dodge. He then gives his opponent a warning before throwing a knife right at his face. Fearfully, Hak chooses to dodge rather than deflect, afraid that his opponent has equipped a device on the knife. However, it was just another tactic deployed by Hajin to deceive his opponent, as the knife was a fake. Now that he has Hak in his sights, he shoots him several more times, leaving him unable to get up. Hajin slowly approaches the martial artist with his gun. Hak's body trembles, as the crowd is horrified by what the cadet is about to do. Hajin's finger is determined on the trigger, and he is ready to end this fight. Hajin is prepared to fire, while the cadet is defenseless. To everyone's surprise, Kim Hyun runs out of bullets at the last second. Hak may be exhausted, but he somehow manages to get back up, still as determined as ever. But using this situation to his full advantage, this guy literally throws in the towel and surrenders the fight, leaving his opponent with the bitter taste of both victory and defeat. His sudden resignation even leaves the heroes stunned, the duel coming to an abrupt close in a twist worthy of a great manhwa. With Hak being the winner, this kind of shameful victory is at odds with the muscular guy who roars at Hajin to come back, but our boy is too cool to care and leaves the stage, like a classic manhwa protagonist. After the fight ends, the doctors are surprised that Hak has recovered so quickly from his injuries, despite being shot by real bullets. As for the high-ranking heroes, Hunuk asks Jung for her impression of the fight that took place. She remarks that Cadet Hajin was quite competent, a standout character in this manhwa arc, while his opponent made a bunch of mistakes. If only he had calmly played the fight to his advantage instead of rushing, he might have won. EG is solely fixated on Hajin's performance. There is the fact that he displayed superhuman shooting speed and even exhibited a surprising visual ability to keep up with the martial artist and put him in check. Then there is the fact that when the cadet started to weaken, his opponent matched his pace. Junji wonders if Hajin possesses a gift that makes him a match for any opponent he faces, a classic manhwa power-up. She is also concerned about the bullets he used, which were infused with mana. But this is a ridiculous argument for Junik, and knows that even mana-infused bullets are not strong enough to break the durability of the enhanced protection shield. Junji states that they have yet to fully comprehend the gifts Hajin possesses, a central mystery for this manhwa. To know for sure, There is the possibility he might have enhanced himself, a common progression for any manhwa hero. Ji saw him in the duel today, and she's almost certain that Hajin has the potential to become the best hero of all time. She memorized his name because of his outstanding and brilliant performance. As for Junior, he feels no sympathy for Hajin for some reason. He thinks the kid is too weak and just plain boring with a small gun. It annoys him that the captain asked him to investigate his fight. Drun explains that Hajin possesses the power of demonic destruction, which is reason enough. However, Junior remains uninterested and thinks it's a useless comparison of strength. Drun criticizes him for acting so high and mighty, since Hajin ended up being a ranged fighter. The warrior within Junior believes a real fight is when there are fatal intentions to kill another opponent. Drun ridicules and challenges this braggart to go find suitable cadets with that level of desperation. This whole academy arc is a classic manhwa trope. He also asks if this fool finished checking on Suho and Jonghak, who are his main interests. Junior assures him they're fine, that he's seen Jonghak's spear in combat, and finds his physical prowess quite admirable. There's also his aggressiveness, which puts everyone else on the defensive due to intimidation. Drun thinks Jonghak must have a horrible character for this guy, of all people, to like him. He then talks about Suho, whom he considers a strange person. Sujo's fight was quite interesting in terms of his swordsmanship, as he can move with perfect strikes in combat. He has very sharp and refined movements, but something about those movements didn't feel right to him. This kind of mysterious character is common in the manhwa genre. Suho is suppressing his true personality, as if he's someone different from who he appears to be. Drun thinks this confirms that Sujo's combat ability lives up to his reputation. Well, Junior isn't really excited about either of the two fighters so far. The character dynamics in this manhwa are getting intense. Finally, he asks about Hajin, whose name alone is enough to make this guy's blood boil. Drun explains that the captain is interested in someone with anti-magic abilities. After all, Junior still hates the kid, but as he shouts out loud, a guard seems to spot him, reminding the citizen that outsiders are not allowed in the forest, so he must leave immediately. Irritated at being caught, Junior approaches the annoying bug and proceeds to crush him like an insect. A simple twist of his hand crushes the man's head as his body falls to the ground. Hearing what just happened, Drun asks if this fool just crushed someone's skull. Junior happily confirms that he did, which will surely enrage the captain, as it causes them unnecessary trouble. The scene shifts to the leader of the chameleon troop, who is recalling tragic memories from her past. It seems she lost someone dear to her and hopes to get revenge someday. She tasks Drun with keeping a close eye on the three of their favorite candidates. However, the one with the highest priority of all of them is Kimahim, who could help them destroy the mana dysfunction with his special magic. This whole plot feels like a great manhwa. Drun wonders if this is really the right move, since they know practically nothing about the kid. However, the leader doesn't care. She just wants him to get the job done. After all, she intends to meet Kimahim in person tomorrow, on the second day of the midterms. The arena is as lively as yesterday. There's a scout from the Knife's Etcha Guild. Even the Holy Grace of God is here. Many high-level individuals are showing up just to observe. The promising cadets emerging from the duels, according to the institution's ranking system, a classic trope in many a manhwa. Cube. Suho is supposed to face Joy, the Academy's number 8. Then there's Rachel fighting against Non, and their ranks are almost identical to each other. They are the best of the best facing off. The first showdown is between the girls. Hajin is acting as a spectator, observing the scene with almost no participation, since he already knows what's going to happen. Hajin explains that Rachel is going to shatter Non in today's match, all thanks to Non's unconscious stance in a classic manhwa setup, as she hasn't switched her weapon yet. The 8th duel between the first years begins. Non thinks this is the perfect opportunity to change her ranking position with Rachel, since they are so close to each other. She launches a powerful arrow into the air, which then splits into a cluster-like attack, descending towards her opponent. Rachel waits for the attack and dodges each of the arrows. However, one of them is aimed at her head, so instead of dodging, she decides to parry the arrow. Non is baffled by Rachel's defensive skills, especially since the close combat fighter is gaining ground little by little and getting closer to her. The crowd goes wild over this epic manhwa fight. At the same time, the leader of the chameleon troop decides to join him here and share a seat with him. She stares at him intently as she sits right next to him. The guy is literally so surprised he can't speak. Finally, he starts to delve into who she is. This girl is supposed to be one of the most wanted criminals of all time, and the person who is the captain of the masked syndicate, while at the same time holding a powerful reputation as an underworld leader with multiple aliases, a truly intimidating manhwa antagonist. Her true identity is known only to herself, and just as the poor woman is about to greet our boy, someone spills a cold drink on her face, ruining her hair and destroying the mood. Even Hajin is stunned. The man apologizes, and they can't see the result of the match. Rachel takes the victory, just as Hajin had written in the novel this manhwa is based on. Anyway, he hands the woman a handkerchief to clean herself up. She finally brings up the topic of interest. Since she saw his duel against Araki, she was impressed by his performance. She hands him a business card so he can contact her, a pivotal moment in this manhwa. She also wants to know if the power he used was some kind of skill. The card she hands him is just one of her many aliases. She claims to be Issa Ofank, but it's not her real name, because Hajin will recognize it as the author's. He pretends not to know, and asks if she's there to recruit him as a guildmaster. Hajin tries to take the card, even though it's illegal to recruit cadets this early. But when he tries to pull it away, she grabs it tightly, refusing to let go. The woman comments that she can't prove it immediately, but she has enough to offer him. She hopes he will call her sometime. After that, she gets up and leaves. Hajin is left with a bewildered impression, as he doesn't think there's a logical reason for her to approach him like that, altering the manhwa's plot. This raises the question, why did she come here in the first place? Anyway, the showdown between Sujo and Joy's match concludes, and the winner is as clear as day. It's the protagonist, Sujo. That's all for today's duels. Everyone is talking about Sujo's brilliant performance, while at the same time, many are discussing Nan's fall to Rachel. Until now, no one had ever seen a top Korean talent be defeated by an international student in such a way. Hajin retrieves his drone, hoping to capture useful footage that will help with his research. He wants to go to his room and analyze the images, but at that moment, he sees a miserable girl crying all by herself. It's Nan, and she's a complete mess from suffering a painful defeat. The guy remembers writing this scene in the manhwa. Nan's state is in decline, but Sujo comes by and helps her, comforting her after her loss. This helps Nan finally feel closer to Sujo's character, allowing her to open up to someone for the first time. As much as Hajin wants to cheer her up, he thinks that useless consolation won't be helpful to her in her current situation. He firmly believes there are times in life when people must learn to let things go, but that's not the kind of person Kim Sujo is, as he is stubborn and unwilling to let things go. Hajin wonders if Sujo will be able to help Nan in this situation. This gives him a brilliant idea. He decides to text her out of the blue, praising her for her fight. Nan reads the message with confusion as she blushes. Hajin teases her through his texts, reminding her she would have done much better with a sword. He thinks it's best for her to change weapons, just as he did. His words strike her strangely in a confusing way. Speaking of Sujo, he approaches to execute his part from the manhwa's plot, but just as he's about to comfort her, he sees Nan's face filled with the rage of 10,000 lions. Instead of feeling sorry for herself, she is now focused on hating the fool who is looking down on her after her defeat. And that's how the first semester's midterms ended. Hajin was casually watching his drone footage when he saw something gruesome. It's Union ripping off someone's head with a simple flick of his finger. The scene is so brutal it makes him wonder if this guy is also related to the criminal group. From his actions, Hajin can tell he's a serious madman who doesn't hesitate for a second before killing someone. The worst part is that he did it for his own pleasure. There are many people like him in this manhwa. The cities now filled with advancements make daily life comfortable, but beneath them lurk monsters who have no sense of right or wrong. Although these people were human on the outside, they still oppose the world's heroes. They possess a power beyond common criminals. These psychopathic maniacs are the villains of this manhwa. Hajin reflects that it's not enough to just be wary of the antagonists from the original manhwa. He is also dealing with an edited version of the manhwa due to the author, which means anyone could become his enemy in this world. The first midterm exam has concluded, which brings us to the monster testing site for the second practical exam. The cadets are welcomed by Jinjua, a mage who will supervise the competition between the cadets. Jinjua wants to summarize the exam's content before they begin. This gigantic stage is where the monster battles between the students will take place. Jinjua will summon the monsters, and the cadets will have to fight them. This exam is supposed to be the most dangerous training they've had so far, since the summoned monsters will be as powerful as real monsters and won't disappear, even if Shinjua tries to dispel them. The cadets are intimidated, realizing they are risking their lives for this training exam. Shinjua prefers they accept defeat as quickly as possible if necessary. Now, regarding the evaluation criteria, their performance will be judged on how well they did against the monster. Shinjua tells everyone to take a stance and do their best in the exam. 4 people will be called at a time to start the exam for Group 1. These 4 people are Juno, Yuki, Junun, and Spencer. They all get into a standby position until the monsters are summoned. The mage tells the rest of the cadets to pay close attention to the fights. The cadets who aren't fighting will have the chance to analyze their classmates' performance. They will be in charge of grading them based on how they performed. They could even add their own notes on what strategies could have been implemented instead. Shinjua wants to start the exam, but first asks everyone to turn off their smartwatches. She also reminds them to provide a sincere report, as this will affect their written exam grade. So in cases like this, not even the lazy Naum will be able to half-heartedly do the report. Anyway, the battles against the monsters finally begin. The mage casts a summoning spell to bring forth one of the beasts from her grimoire, materializing the first monster in front of Uki, the evolved ghoul. This scene is straight out of a classic action manhwa. This creature, strong and agile, is quick in its movements and gives him a tough time right from the start. The rest of the cadets fill out their reports as the battles unfold. The fights for Group 1 end, allowing Group 2 to take their place. One of the cadets annihilates the snake monster. It's the class representative, Young Han, who has impressively defeated the creature without any trouble. Suddenly, a beam of light from above strikes another monster. It's Na-un, who used her cluster arrows to defeat the unicorn monster, also passing the test. This is a common trope in many a manhwa. Then there's Jonah, who seems to be toying with the creature he's facing. A few more groups pass until it's Group 10's turn. Kimari faces a unique monster, the Chrome Wolf. As expected, he takes down the beast with his evasive tactics. Having found a comfortable position, the angel believes the fight is too easy for him and that it will be over in no time. But suddenly something bad happens, causing confusion among the cadets. This kind of plot twist is what makes a manhwa so engaging. Hajin looks up to ask what has happened. Meanwhile, the hero Hunyuk receives a duty report. He's also being scolded for ignoring his responsibility. John Hill reminds him that one of the guards was literally killed yesterday, so this is no time to be resting. An emergency alert has been issued, but Juno asks if he has discovered its origin. This developing threat feels like a major arc in the manhwa. Johnny suspects it's coming from the seabed near him. As Juno is talking to him, a man appears behind him. It's Junyoung, the villain. He's happy to take care of the guy who has become his new obstacle. Juno warns him that he shouldn't be trespassing in restricted areas. But Junyoung isn't concerned and prepares to fight him. He warns Juno that it will be a fight he's going to regret, but as they get into position, the vibration grows stronger. Diverting their attention from the sea, a tall whirlwind manifests, forcing the exam to be suspended. The order is given for the cadets to evacuate the area immediately and prioritize their safety. The last group participating in the battle against the monsters is instructed to evacuate immediately, instead of completing their battles. Hajin is agitated, leaving things half done, and wonders what is causing so much trouble. The building trembles as monsters roam free, a scene straight out of a horror manhwa, and Hajin is hidden behind cover, fearful for his life, as the monsters have not been desummoned. He calls for help, but it seems no one is around. He analyzes the situation, realizing a mere coincidence could not have caused this chaos, and wonders if it is the work of a demon, a classic manhwa villain, among the mages who is the true culprit. Hajin dismisses Hajin Hua from his list of suspects, simply because the system would have informed him about it. It is clear that no one at the exam center expressed any recent changes that might have caught his attention. Then, Hajin comes to a critical realization as his eyes dart around quickly, realizing what is truly causing this chaos. Elsewhere, Rachel confronts a mysterious warrior whose mere presence makes her uncomfortable. As Hajin gathers his thoughts, he thinks it is possible that the story is triggering an original event, just like the existence of Kim Chong-don, a character the author of this manhwa never wrote. It is revealed that Cyril Lancaster has a connection to Rachel and is, probably, the culprit manipulating the scenes. The manhwa's story has just taken another major turn that Hajin knows nothing about. Rachel confronts Alex Lancaster, a mage who disappeared mysteriously in the London incident many years ago. Rachel questions him, but in response, the man flashes a sinister smile. Rachel immediately realizes what happened. This man sold his soul to demons in the name of power. She cannot accept that the former captain of the Royal Guard, a once noble figure in this manhwa, has fallen so low. But Lancaster is mostly indifferent to her words and corrects her arrogantly. He reminds Rachel how he was betrayed while serving the king in her country, so all he did was adopt a new master to serve. Rachel grips her sword, recognizing this man as her enemy, and professes that she will bring him to justice. With her incredible speed, a staple of action manhwa, the exceptional student tries to cut him down, but is shocked when her sword simply passes through his body, as if he were intangible. Lancaster apologizes to her, as the person before her is nothing but an illusion, incapable of taking any damage. The truly problematic aspect for Rachel is that everyone is focused on the external attack, leaving Rachel exposed, as no one would come to check on her situation. The other monsters will keep them occupied. Lancaster points out how different the institution is, since in his country they would have thrown hundreds of people just to protect those of the royal family. Recalling the horrors Lancaster faced after losing someone valuable, which likely caused his change, He is even more convinced. The mage tells her he does not have time to argue much more right now, so he will leave her be. Rachel tries to catch him, but let's be honest, it is not like she could stop him anyway. Lancaster's body dissolves into black, a classic Manhwa exit, but from it emerges a dangerous faceless assassin with his twin swords. The assassin disappears into thin air before attacking Rachel. With an incredibly powerful blow, she is physically and mentally shaken, being pushed back. The assassin continues to unleash his powerful attacks, so much so that Rachel's body receives light cuts along her skin. This is an opponent she cannot overcome in direct combat, so she plans to wait for an opportunity to strike. Unfortunately, that won't happen, as Rachel's weapon is stolen, leaving her completely defenseless. The dark figure watches its prey, now that she is left with nothing but her human body. But Rachel has a few tricks up her sleeve, as she is able to use telekinetic magic to draw her sword back. The weapon returns flying back just as the assassin prepares to deliver the killing blow, but an unexpected explosion from outside causes a distraction that stops them both. A man walks in over the rubble and, upon seeing this person, the assassin changes targets and decides to attack him immediately. Hajin changes his weapon's configuration once again and, this time, he brings out the American breathing style, second variation, shotgun mode. Hajin eliminates the target without much trouble, like a true Manhwa protagonist. Apparently, he didn't even need more than a single shot. He is willing to spend 250 story points for the cause, as it was all worth it in the end. Now, for Rachel, she realizes that it's one of her classmates who has come to her rescue. He offers her a hand and asks if she's okay, completely forgetting that this girl is bleeding all over her body. Hajin uses his bandages to clean her blood, but it seems to be embarrassing for the princess, who gets flustered while he does his work. Fortunately, it's not as serious as it could have been. While cleaning her blood, Hajin inspects the bandage and, unexpectedly, he realizes he has just obtained a sample from the top-ranked cadet. It's just what he was looking for. Rachel thanks him for all his help. The mages from the institution also rush to the scene, asking if any of them are injured. They come down to help them, while Jin, the mage instructor, is informed that 2 more cadets are seriously injured. Jin is furious and also questions the person responsible for causing so much destruction. Let's go back to the hero. On the shore, Juno meets up with her friend, who asks her about the monster attack. Fortunately, the monster was scared off, not by Juno, but by the actions of an intruder. The world of this manhwa is full of unexpected dangers. Juno wonders what made the creature so tense and angry, but, even so, the intruder defeated it with little to no difficulty. Without a doubt, judging by his strength, the man seemed immensely powerful. She has trouble taking her words seriously, and Juno, who agrees because she thinks the same, is also sure that this same terrifying man is linked to the guard's death. With the appearance of both a high-level creature and this mysterious intruder, the institution's midterm exams were suspended. In the midst of the chaos, a day passed and yesterday's monster incident ended up appearing on the news. Everyone was asking questions, which caused the postponement of the midterm exams, with most of the teachers busy explaining and helping with the reconstruction of the damages. The school arc in this manhwa is certainly intense. The students' classes were finally cancelled, which is why Ajin's class celebrated with joy, as they had 10 full days to themselves with no work to worry about. Their instructor couldn't believe his eyes. They were celebrating right after their classmates were almost killed. Suddenly, Ajin's laptop receives another notification. He learns that another story divergence is about to occur in the manhwa, which is annoying enough for him to have to deal with. The mage known as Alex Lancaster is the subject of interest. We find out he lost a prominent family in an incident, and his state of rage increases the odds that he will target Rachel. There's also his growing potential to become an even greater villain, depending on how the story unfolds. Fortunately, Hajin remembers Lancaster from the list of British characters he wrote for this manhwa. This guy is supposed to be a serious villain, but his appearance here is premature and unexpected. At this point, Hajin regrets not adding more heroes on the protagonist's side, because the villains in this manhwa are getting out of control. Deep in thought, he's at least relieved that he obtained Rachel's blood without raising any suspicion. Suddenly, a girl smacks him on the head. Only Nam has the nerve to do so. She's annoyed with him, but it's understandable because Hajin keeps telling her to forget the bow and pick up something new. That's because he knows the bow is an incompatible weapon for her potential. Sujo and the class representative are watching the scene from afar, noticing that the 2 problem children are together again. For some reason, Sujo thinks they're behaving better than before. Nam returns to her dorm room, satisfied that she managed to annoy our boy for teasing her. However, Naum receives a message on her smartwatch. It's the feedback report on her performance in the recent test, and excitedly, Naum is interested in checking the ratings from others, like Sujo's for example. Surprisingly, Sujo wrote positive comments about the girl, mentioning how scared and uncertain Naum was, until she became confident and ultimately proved to be a skilled cadet. He describes her persistence and talent as one of her strengths, and actually favored the decision of Naum to continue using the bow. Sujo even mentions how some doubt her abilities, but the only aspect she lacks is self-confidence. Finally, he thinks Naum has the potential to become one of the strongest heroines in the manhwa, as long as she keeps proving her worth. Reading such words, Naum is moved to tears. She's even more convinced of her prowess as an archer and dismisses Hajin's teasing. She reads the second report, which is written from an anonymous account. This person wrote a whole essay for some reason, more excited than ever, especially after Sujo's review. Naum rushes to read it. After a short pause, Naum's entire body trembles with rage. Her blood boils from the words she's reading, to the point that Aski hears her screaming from inside her room. Filled with anger, Naum swears to prove this anonymous loser wrong. Having placed Rachel's sample on top of the seed, Hajin waits in anticipation. The Evangel seed he discovered in Garrison possesses a special power upon receiving a sufficient amount of human blood. The seed will eventually be reborn as the Angel Witch. Hajin feels somewhat relieved that it now has Rachel's qualities, so the seed won't become a threat to deal with. Otherwise, he'd be facing a damn villain. Impatiently, he pokes the small seed, begging it to grow at once. Suddenly, he experiences a stabbing pain throughout his entire body. His face turns pale because, in a classic manhwa power-up scene, he literally can't handle what is about to happen. The second mark of the stigma has just appeared on his wrist, promising infernal pain like last time. His screams echo as the night comes to an end.